they see themselves in him. Who is seeing themselves in Nav? Who? What the f, man? What the f is coming some random like this, bro? What the f, bruh? The f is he talking about? What the f is he talking about? What top 5 you smoking on, Kendrick? Because my top 5 is Drake.
It's no secret that DJ Akademiks is one of the biggest names in hip hop. He's known for breaking news or starting beef, and his platform has helped some artists become stars and ruin others. But these days, people's opinions about him have changed. And today, Akademiks is one of the most hated figures in hip hop by fans, artists, and even former allies. So what did Akademiks do? How did he get away with it for so long? And what's going to happen to him? My name is Rashad Bashir, and this is the satisfying downfall of DJ Akademiks. However, just this year, Akademiks would be involved in even darker allegations, and unfortunately, this time, it wasn't about industry beef or internet trolling. You see, everything went down when old clips resurfaced of Akademiks making very disturbing comments to a 15-year-old, Noor, an aspiring streamer who is also a Palestinian refugee living in Malaysia. During his Fortnite stream, Akademiks and other streamers suddenly dished out sexualized banter with him, with Ak even asking him,
Max said he wanted to try fucking a dude. Will you let him fuck you?
No.
However, if you think that's bad, just take a look at what Ak said next.
I can't fuck you, I'm cutting you off.
No, yo. Suppose he's like, yo, bro, listen, yo, you always wanted me to be next to you. Now I could be inside of you. Pause.
However, Noor tried to stand his ground, saying,
Yo, I'm not gay.
Nah, yeah.
And this was only a result of other disturbing comments they made.
Noor, would you suck a to save Max's life?
Yes.
But on top of that, there was another clip that showed Akademiks and Tory Lanez former manager, written by Ray, which made things even worse, because apparently these two grown men wanted him to lose his V card.
Yo, Noor, what's your address? I'm gonna send some strippers over there.
Fortunately, Noor, the child, had the brains to counter, saying,
Slow down, yo. I'm 15. I hope you know that, bro. You trying to get...
women, bro.
I'm not scared of women. Yo, bro, you trying to put me on a case. You trying to put them on a case.
However, Ray would even double down.
So?
What you mean so? That's weird.
Trying to look out. You know all the rappers lost their virginity to like old women, right?
During this interaction, it kind of looked like Noor was the one with maturity, and that's what fans thought. Bro, the 15-year-old has more sense than them all put together. While another wrote, for real, what the hell did I just watch? This Ak dude weird as hell. And after the clip went viral, Noor decided to speak out with streamer I'm Dante and go on record saying that everything that happened was just weird from the start. According to Noor, he was invited by Tory Lanez's former manager.
So this is Ray's Discord. By the way, Ray is Tory Lanez's manager. I know him. Bunch of FaZe knows him, like knew him, right? So
thinking that this was his way to connect and network with larger streamers, Noor decided to join their Fortnite lobby.
So he invited me to the Discord, and I joined. For maybe a week or so. And then they were playing Fortnite. I asked if I could join. They said okay. I told them I'm live. They said okay, that's fine. Blah 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 blah.
But it gets even weirder, knowing that even though they knew Noor was live, they still decided to joke around.
They knew you were live and was still talking like that?
Yeah. So imagine what happens when nobody's live.
Exactly.
So once the clip went viral, the backlash was immediate. But instead of taking accountability, Ak decided to just go off on the streaming community, deflecting everything that had happened. See, rather than just apologizing, Akademiks decided to go on the attack.
Like, I swear to God, and I never swear to God, I never need to be on Kai, Max, Aiden, nobody's stream. I don't need none of nobody who stream.
But beyond that, it looked like his main point was about Black Boy Max, writing,
Max clips on my page, I'm supporting these and these is kicking my back in. I get nothing from it. I don't benefit if Max go up. I don't benefit if Aiden. Bro, I support him because I like these guys.
However, Black Boy Max made it clear that he wanted nothing to do with Akademiks, stating,
now look, Ak, I saw a clip of you saying fuck my community. I saw a clip of you saying fuck me. You don't need to post me. Don't post me. I got here with my niggas without any of your posts.
See, to Max, this was personal because he looked at Noor as his little brother.
At the end of the day, if you are coming on stream and you are saying weird shit to a nigga, to a kid I basically view as my little brother.
On top of that, he'd been helping him throughout this entire time. So you can see why Max was enraged about the incident.
I've known him for like 2 years now. He's gone through a lot. I really care about this kid.
And at this point, it was impossible for DJ Akademiks to get out of this mess. But instead of keeping quiet, he kept on speaking, which eventually only made things worse. Now, backed into a corner, Akademiks finally tried to take accountability.
A very regretful moment happened where, it derived from a Discord that we're usually like super like buddy and probably like some shit And honestly, in that court, everything I've ever said in that court got leaked. It would be crazy.
However, to most fans, it looked like he was just trying to justify himself.
Not defending it, but that's kind of the court it was. Definitely a regrettable moment.
He continued by saying he'd do better and change, but most fans were wondering if that were really going to happen.
I'll just take the responsibility. I should do better and will do better.
On the other hand, Ak also explained that he had nothing against Black Boy Max.
Max hit me a few times. You know, he was like, yo, Ak, yo, people running your page is posting stuff about me. I got nothing against Max. I said what I had to say last night. I stand on every word.
However, even if this apology was sincere, the damage was already done. In fact, Noor, the refugee, would even write on Twitter that Ak was just apologizing just because he got caught, writing, and after they tried to defame Max and the stuff he said, he realized he's in the wrong only because he got caught. I don't care. You are a PDF. You apologize, quote unquote, with a backhand, oh, 5-star / Black Boy Max so toxic, etc. And even with his apology, Ak still couldn't escape the criticism from other hip hop media outlets. For instance, Anthony Fantano didn't hold back at all when he heard the news.
I don't even know what to say. This is crazy.
According to him, what made the situation even worse was that people were trying to defend the situation.
And what's even more insane about the footage that you just saw are like the defenses that I have seen of it, or just people generally turning a blind eye.
However, it could also just mean that people were tired of Ak's controversies.
Or people honestly just kind of tuning out at this point because Akademiks in so many scenarios, be it with the Kendrick and Drake stuff, be it with the Megan Thee Stallion, Tory Lanez stuff, has proven himself to be such utter trash.
On top of that, Fantano didn't really believe any of Ak's reasoning, saying,
again, the excuses, the defenses that I have seen have been just crazy, talking about, oh, you know, he's just like joking and being silly, it's not serious, so on and so forth.
See, there wasn't anything really funny about what he said, especially since they were talking to a teenager.
I'm sorry, like, what's the joke here? What's the joke? If there's anything I fucking hate about the evolution of humor in the internet age over the past 10-15 years, it's the complete and utter death of irony.
However, Fantano wasn't just the one condemning Ak for his actions. This sentiment was all over social media.
I was just straight up disgusted with what I saw Akademiks doing. Even more disgusted after he got caught. Even more disgusted at the lack of accountability.
So clearly, fans weren't buying the narrative that this was just one large misunderstanding. I mean, how could they? The evidence was damning. But despite the overwhelming proof against him, Akademiks still refused to take the L and just move on. Instead, he speculated that his downfall was caused by Kendrick Lamar fans, as if that explained why he was getting cut off by the industry.
That type of relationship, I'm sorry, it's a man.
What?
I know people trying to make it weird, and this is why I know it ain't even Max's community. It's really like these Kendrick fans and shit like that.
Unfortunately for Ak, this tactic just didn't work, because nobody believed his theory or accepted his apology. But as if the situation wasn't bad enough, it somehow got even worse. See, this controversy only reminded people of another disturbing case Akademiks was tied to. This came out when his ex-girlfriend, Abashe, decided to file a lawsuit accusing him of SA and defamation. According to Abashe, she was invited to Ak's home in New Jersey, where she was allegedly given substances and taken advantage of by 2 other men before waking up hours later to find Ak on top of her as well. When the allegations first came out, Akademiks, of course, denied everything Abashe claimed.
Weird, incorrect stuff about me, whether it's, I think she put out like a thing with a bottle, right? Like a pill bottle.
So instead of owning up to his mistakes, he then countered by accusing his ex of giving him STDs.
One time, this is how like sick she really had me, like double shit. Man, I went and got medication thinking I might have chlamydia when she was just trolling me trying to find out who I fucked.
See, during that time, he even avoided talking about the case, even though there are photos of her injuries online. On the other hand, this defamation lawsuit came when Akademiks accused her of getting freaky with all of his friends at his house while maintaining that he never got to participate at all. That just sounds sad. And since Akademiks kept on denying her accusations, she finally got enough, and according to her, she had been quiet for way too long.
I look crazy right now, but I'm not gonna stand here and let this man continue to lie about me. That's not what happened, Akademiks. You know that that's not what happened. And for you to pretend that you didn't do anything?
According to her, Ak was trying his best to cover up his tracks.
Tried to save yourself after your friends assaulted me. Whether or not you got drunk or not, I know that when you woke up, you were on top of me too. Me too, and a kit was done.
And if what Abashe was saying was the truth, actually dug himself into the ground. Because at this moment, even his own fans started to turn against him. For instance, TikToker Ceda Jones shared his experience on being inside Akademiks' Discord server. saying,
DJ Akademiks was giving his paid subscribers access to a secret channel in the Discord that had stolen OF content.
and according to Jones, it needed to finally stop.
Time that DJ Akademiks and his close-knit community of followers are brought down. Him and his friends have been able to leverage his fame and use his Discord to groom young girls.
See, even Ak was feeling the pressure, saying he'd snitch on every one of his fans.
Let me tell you this about everybody in the industry. I'm gonna tell y'all all this right now. If Ak ever goes down, y'all all go down with me, because I hold no secrets from nobody.
But unfortunately, this wasn't Ak's first or last bad interaction with women. In fact, there was also a video where Akademiks was caught on camera attempting to give a woman the beats during a trip to a Miami shopping center. In the footage, Ak was seen and heard screaming at the woman, yelling, "I'm the prize." And to fans, it just looked like the fame and money had got to his head, as yelling at someone to explain that you're the prize isn't exactly a good look. And even his former friend and co-host Joe Budden couldn't defend him in this video.
I have a question.
What?
If you're the prize, why you gotta tell her?
Well, now you're going back to that situation, right?
And as always, Akademiks tried to control the narrative.
If you had a situation or opportunity or whatever in front of you, you would act a little bit different if you knew your actions could jeopardize the situations.
Yo, y'all crazy.
But unfortunately, no amount of denial and deflection could disprove the hard evidence. However, to many, this was also not surprising, because if you've known about Akademiks for quite a while, you know that Akademiks' misogyny has been on full display for years. For instance, take a look at how he body shamed SZA.
Now I can't distinguish the from the stomach. You look like you just got a whole like bulletproof vest on. Your whole is flat. You love to eat. You are an eater.
See, he didn't just body shame her, he even mocked her surgeon.
You fat as. Let's keep it a bean. You know you've been under the knife mad times. We don't care how much you show that little botched BBL. You need to get back to the doctor one more time.
And unfortunately, this didn't help SZA at all, as she confessed in an interview with British Vogue that she regretted getting a BBL, stating, "I'm so mad I did that. I gained all this weight from being immobile while recovering and trying to preserve fat. It was just so stupid." However, this wasn't the first time. All of the verbal assaults and accusations were a pattern, and a lot of female rappers were starting to see it. In fact, a gay rapper named Saucy Santana decided to stand up and threaten Akademiks since he was getting tired of all the hate female rappers were getting from him.
And after I'm gonna you on your ass, cause you a bitch. That's what we do to you. You always pressing a BBL. You sit on your thick. I got a BBL, so you a BBW. That's what you do. You a big black woman.
In Santana's POV, Akademiks was an insecure, weak man who spent his time obsessing over women he could never get a chance of bagging. But if you think that the grooming and misogyny were the worst things Ak has done, you're dead wrong. See, as we uncover more and more about DJ Akademiks' dark story, it keeps getting darker and darker every time. You see, perhaps the most disturbing part of Akademiks' career is his alleged predatory behavior when it comes to young women. Leaked text messages show Ak inviting a girl over and even admitting that he wasn't sure whether she was of age or not. According to the messages, the girl wrote, "I linked him in July for the first time. He invited a girl over and he said that he wasn't sure if she was 17 or 18, but he still had fun with her. He kept trying to give us substances and have fun with us while we were in his backyard." But if that wasn't enough to convince you, Akademiks himself has even spoken about his views on underage girls.
And to keep it real, if you think about it in the bigger scheme of things, there's not much difference between a 20 or a 17 or a 21 and a 17. Just kind of mean one's a minor and one's not a minor.
To many fans, just hearing these statements felt disgusting. But while these controversies were really bad, they were far from the only ones Akademiks would find himself in. See, Ak also had a knack for beefing. As we all know, Ak has never shied down from starting beef with any rapper despite his or their size. And he also has no problem with playing unfairly. The best example being his almost decade-long beef with Meek Mill. So what exactly happened and why was it so brutal? Well, the tension between the two first erupted in 2017, shortly after the release of Meek's third studio album, Wins and Losses. According to Akademiks, the beef started when he failed to promote the album on his platform. However, Ak was kind of caught off guard again because according to him, Meek had previously messaged him, saying,
However, it was really confusing to me because like about 6 months ago, Meek had sent me a DM, him and the rest of the chasers. They gave me a little digital jump and I liked one. They said, listen, either post us this way or don't post us at all, right?
But just after that, he decided to stop posting Meek on his platform since things were getting a little heated.
Next thing I'm seeing, they were like threatening me. When I see him, I'm gonna give him a wedgie, I'm gonna slap him. I'm like, oh shit, I think I'm posting him wrong, so I stopped posting him.
So when Ak was asked whether or not he'd post about Meek again, he added,
Now I'm trying to stay. Meek has this Instagram conspiracy where he feels people on Instagram are out to get him.
See, according to Ak, all the hate he was getting stemmed from Meek's past beef with Drake.
He thought that Drake was like paying to put L's in comment section. most of his stuff because he was getting a lot of negative backlash from the comments on my Instagram.
But as we all know, this wouldn't be the last time Akademiks would post about Meek Mill on his channel. So fast forward to 2020, and Meek Mill wasn't just upset with Akademiks, he wanted him removed from hip hop. In June of that year, Meek publicly called for Akademiks' cancellation. He accused him of playing the role of bad police and argued that he was a culture vulture profiting off of street culture while instigating beefs that could lead to real violence. In Twitter, he aired out his opinion, writing, "Akademiks canceled because he's a bad police and our culture don't need him." He also gassed a lot of beef that a lot of people lost their lives over and hurt and never donated a dollar to the culture. "We're gonna holla at you next run, champ, lol." However, Meek didn't stop there. Just days later, he took things even further by reportedly giving the green light to Akademiks, implying that he may have sent people after him, writing, "Nah, you online, you just make money off the trenches, next phase is the green light," implying that the next stage was Meek putting money on Ak's head. But Ak wasn't about to let that slide. So as a response, he went on social media to give some advice to Meek.
So if you got like some tough that you have to do, keep it that way. Just stop snitching on yourself. Stop telling the world you're greenlighting people and just do what you have to do.
You see, when Ak heard that Meek was threatening him, he felt as if he had no choice but to run to the police.
When you say greenlighting, I send that to the police. I'm gonna be honest with you. Oh, yo, are you greenlit? Wait, Meek Mill just told me in front of the world I'm greenlit? Okay, here's the cops. Hey, Meek Mill, that's his account, that's his people. He say I'm greenlit. Are you dumb?
On top of that, he doubled down and said,
I promise you, I'll never bow down to an. Everybody be so mad at me because they want me to bow down to a rapper. I'm media and I don't care. I built what I got.
And during that time, a lot of fans were actually siding with Ak, one fan noting, "Don't post me, yet here you are talking about him. He lives rent-free in your head." On the other hand, some fans believe that Akademiks was essential in the evolution of hip-hop media, stating, "You need to understand we're in 2020. Hip-hop has evolved. At Akademiks is a huge part of hip-hop. Get with the program." See, Meek's plan of getting Ak cancelled failed miserably. Instead, the public sided with Ak. However, that same year, the two would finally have a chance to settle their differences, because after years of beefing, Meek and Ak finally faced off. Unfortunately, they didn't actually settle their beef. Instead, it turned into a huge argument on the Clubhouse app. In the argument, Meek aired out how he felt about Akademiks fueling beefs between rappers and gangs. Meek, this was a very dangerous game, and he kept on reminding Ak that there were consequences for instigating beef, and in their culture, it can get someone taken out. You see, Meek didn't like the idea of how Ak was using his platform. In one example, he said,
"You start posting me, like one time you posted me like we had guns in the parking lot. You knew I was on probation. You knew that could have sent me to jail. I sent you a DM and had to tell you to take that down."
But to be honest, can we really blame Akademiks here? I mean, Meek knew he was on probation, and he still did the things he did. So Ak countered by saying,
Meek, you were with licensed security, my brother. Like, again, in a situation that everybody was covering. Like, again, okay, I'll even chalk that up to my ignorance, but you was with security. It's not like you had no gun in your hand.
And as the conversation continued, it slowly began to get really heated. At some point, Meek would say to Ak that there are levels to this, stating,
"Level, that's what y'all getting confused, like the internet. You a guy, you got one little platform, like you speaking as if we on the same level, like I really hold weight." Like,
however, as things started to spiral out of control, you wouldn't guess who'd step in to mediate things. During their back and forth, 21 Savage himself stepped up to be the voice of reason. 21 was the one who showed maturity and composure.
Take his grievance first, and his grievance wasn't personal. He said he didn't like what your platform stand for as a whole, and you keep bringing it back to some shit about him and whatever.
You know what? And while Meek might have brought up a good point that Akademiks could bring harm to younger people, it still felt wrong that Ak was getting all the blame, and 21 saw this.
A lot of Meek, we got to hold them accountable too for even taking certain shit to the internet too, bro. That's where it started, bro. Like certain shouldn't even be on the internet for him to even be able to post.
Unfortunately, even with 21 trying to mediate the debate, at some point the two still had to clash.
Let's go.
Yeah, but you just said something that's false. You said something that's false, and you talking crazy over some that's false. I didn't post talking about you. I told you I'm not gonna post about you, good or bad. So now you come in here with some incorrect information.
But following the discussion, both Akademiks and Meek Mill took to Twitter to acknowledge 21 Savage's role in diffusing the situation. Meek wrote, "I apologize if I cut anyone off. I be having my heart in this too much. If you was there, you know it was a great start for communication in hip hop. The way 21 handled it inspired me and was a good highlight." On the other hand, just 2 years later, when DJ Akademiks sat down with the Breakfast Club, he also confirmed that the beef between him and Meek Mill was over.
Why don't you and Meek Mill get along? Where did that start? I honestly
Me cool.
Y'all good now?
We're good now.
No,
I believe we're good.
And once again, Ak had to give credit to 21 for helping calm things down.
21 Savage did something I thought was very dope. And he gave me this explanation. He said, yo, I think it was getting to a point. He's like, when two friends are going at it, if it goes far enough, you got to pick a side.
And for a moment, it looked like peace was actually attainable.
Let's stop the petty bullshit to each other. And let's, if we're not going to be going all the way with it, let's try to mend and build towards something that could be like amicable.
Unfortunately, when it comes to Akademiks and Meek Mill, things never stay quiet for long. See, in early 2024, Akademiks decided to reignite their beef when he discussed the 73-page lawsuit against Diddy. However, Meek wasn't even mentioned in the lawsuit, but as we all know, Diddy had a quote-unquote great relationship with Meek. I mean, Diddy even called Meek daddy.
Hey, what's up, King Son? Man, you doing it, man. You deserve it, daddy. You putting in that work. Proud of you. I love you.
So, Ak decided to call out Meek for not responding to the allegations, stating,
"Nigga, you've been tweeting about everything on planet Earth. If you don't get a Twitter rant saying you about to get Lil Rod killed, you about to up his block, blow his mama's house up, this is saying that you and Diddy were fornicating. What the f?"
However, Meek wasn't having any of it. So he immediately took to Twitter/X, writing, "Akademiks, didn't I tell you to stop playing with my name? I don't know what I'm gonna do when I actually see you." It's gonna have a combination to it though. Unfortunately for Meek, he just couldn't escape the allegations. See, people were asking for answers, with one user noting, "Address the allegations before you address Ak, fam. You're looking shaky right now, SMH." While another user said, "Notice he ain't denied the Diddy stuff though." See, instead of talking about the Diddy issue, Meek just started threatening Ak again, writing, "The way y'all coming on sick now. I can't wait to meet Akademiks, lol. They know I drop tomorrow. This they damage control. This is getting too weird." In fact, he even said that he wanted to shoot a music video in Akademiks' house. On top of that, he also called out Akademiks for being an alcoholic. However, Akademiks wasn't going to let that slide. So he replied, saying, "Cut this bunny hopping fake gangster stuff out. You a reformed man or a killer. Until you shoot a video in front of Dean's house, I don't want to see this on social media. You wildin' trying to promote your whack song." And if you're unfamiliar with what Ak was saying, this stemmed from when a video of Meek bunny hopping after losing a bet with Michael Rubin back in 2021 surfaced.
Meek, because you got your beat in tennis. You got your beat. Keep going. Count out loud.
That's the wrong time, nigga.
Count out loud.
30.
Huh?
4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 41.
And while fans understood that bets and punishments were normal, seeing Meek bunny hop was just uncomfortable to watch. And some fans even claimed that this was modern slavery at the highest level. And after about 3 years after this video came out, Meek finally explained the side when the Diddy situation started to unfold, writing, "This a game I started from prison. We used to make criminals do bunny hops when they lose because it was too hostile for money. This be us. I'ma get Ruben to bunny hop for me, okay? Lol, I'ma teach him that D-thing hop." Unfortunately for Meek, the situation just added ammunition for Ak to go at him even harder. You bunny hop and get called boy by billionaires. You they house slave. You ask for all your financial advice on Twitter because the billionaires you around just have you doing chores for them. That's half the reason you fell off. The image don't match. On the other hand, Ak also claimed that Meek was just using this issue to his advantage, writing, "The day this man used a gay rumor and beefing with a blogger to promote a song is when I realized this game is too crazy for me. I'ma pray for Meek. He gotta get back on them perks." Now, that was a pretty disturbing, but also awfully funny exchange. And sadly for Meek, that wasn't the end of it. See, by March of that year, things would escalate even more, because during one of Akademiks' live streams, something unexpected happened.
I think this Meek Mill done send the cops to my house, bro. I don't know if y'all hear my dogs and like that. The police is out to my house now.
Ak went off on Meek.
This is just a hoe. This got police at my house now, bro. Like, you over here tweeting out like you on my, like, of course police gonna come to my house. What the fuck is you doing?
It even came to the point where Ak needed to step out.
Police at my, yo, Meek Mill got the police at my house, gang. Hold up.
At that point, he didn't know what to do.
I might have to, I don't even know if I gotta cut the stream. Boy sent the police to my house talking about what's his addy. Look, I promise you, look, nigga, look. Look. Police.
Filled with rage, Ak started questioning all of Meek's persona.
All that gangster shit, like he the biggest killer, the governor calling him, he sent police to my crib, I swear. Bro, this Meek, you a whole snitch, my nigga. Like, this shit is crazy.
At this point, Ak had enough.
Meek, let's box. Please, let's box. Meek, I'm down to catch a squabble with you. No, I'm not down to fight Saucy Santana. I'm down to squabble with you. You're this gangster rapper. You're a killer. I'm cool. If I catch a loss, it's cool.
And to be honest, it looked like he was dead serious.
Meek, let's box, bro. Like, come on. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Meek, let's get to the hands, gang. let's get to the hands. We could have Savage set it up. Let's see what's up.
But for all the tough talk Meek was portraying, he decided to handle it very differently. You see, instead of using his usual threats and trash talk, Meek Mill suddenly announced that he was blocking Akademiks on Twitter. And to ensure that everyone knew, he even posted a screenshot, captioning it, "Okay, it's over, y'all. I wanted to see how many days I could make a bad geek, lose sleep, lol, I blocked him." However, if Meek thought this was his way out, he was dead wrong. See, blocking Akademiks made it seem like Ak won this whole beef, with one fan writing, "No offense, but Ak won this whole thing. You better off squashing things with him. This makes you look worse." On the other hand, Meek's career at the time was declining fast, and according to many fans, blocking Ak would only speed up his career's downfall. You do realize this was the last person keeping you relevant, right? And just a few minutes later, Akademiks confirmed that Meek really did block him on this app. "No way Meek Mill blocked me. I out-tweeted Mr. Twitter Fingers himself." So at that point, it felt like everything would cool down. However, it all changed the following year. You see, in light of the disturbing clip of DJ Akademiks engaging in that conversation with Noor, the 15-year-old streamer, Meek finally had some leverage that he could use to fight with. And as Ak got exposed, this time, Meek wasn't the one doing the blocking. Instead, he advised parents to be stricter on what their children could watch online. On Twitter, he wrote, "If you're a parent, get your kid's phone and block this man. He's grooming," with a very large platform that quote-unquote kids like. Also attempts to ruin black families and black success daily. Villain in the village. Unfortunately for Meek though, he still couldn't escape the Diddy allegations. You see, if he expected that people would finally side with him in this beef, he was wrong. He scrolled down the replies on the tweet, most of them were calling him out to explain his relationship with Diddy. For instance, one user wrote, "Why you ain't make this public service announcement for Diddy?" While another said, "Bro, weren't you literally groomed by Diddy? Worry about your own ass." Literally. So sadly for Meek, as soon as he thought he had the upper hand, Akademiks fired back from a new angle. You see, just this March of 2025, a Twitter user tagged Meek Mill in DJ Akademiks' post related to a RICO case that mentioned the No Jumper podcast, writing, "About 30 to 40% of the incidents described in this RICO indictment against the Rolling 60s can be traced back to podcasts or an online back and forth. Threats, plots, and incidents seem to be directly related to online beefing, podcasting, which only heightened the tension." See, this fan thought there was a clear comparison between No Jumper situation and some of Meek's past accusations. This all came when Meek Mill was involved in probation violations from a firearm and substance use conviction back in 2007. If you aren't familiar, back in 2017, Meek Mill was arrested for popping a wheelie on a dirt bike in New York, and even though this was a minor offense, it still led to a 2 to 4 year prison sentence because it violated his probation. Akademiks soon explained the situation on No Jumper.
Meek, you being on this prison reform was because you violated your probation doing a wheelie, where they could say you're operating a motor vehicle unsafely. That is a crime.
And as soon as Meek saw his name brought up into the conversation, he had a few words to say, or more than a few. "Meek talk too much. Shut up and rap. More rap, less tweets. No more tweeting. You think the geeks want the street guy really from the street talking while they get intimidated and be insecure? These all bots and campaigns." And of course, Akademiks wouldn't let Meek have the last laugh. So he replied by quoting the tweet, "Take some accountability, dummy. You cried about violating probation when you posted an Instagram video of yourself doing a wheelie and got locked up later. You street dudes do the most snitching. How many times you threatened me on here? Street guys don't tweet all day like you." And Akademiks wasn't done. He followed it up by writing, "Reminder, you got sent to jail for posting your own crime. How street guys love the internet so much. Stop blaming civilians for your downfall. Self-snitching. Blogs ain't send you to jail. You did. Police saw an Instagram video." So somehow, after all of this, Akademiks got out of it alive. In fact, most people say that Akademiks won this beef by a landslide. But while we're on the topic of Akademiks wins, let's take this back to 2017, when Akademiks first started beefing with Meek. That year, it wasn't all bad for Akademiks. Even with the concert, he was able to land a job with Complex. And in April of that year, Complex announced the series premiere of Everyday Struggle, a daily morning show covering the biggest news in hip-hop and pop culture with his co-host, Joe. Not only was this a huge opportunity for DJ Akademiks, as he could pull in more of an audience from Complex's platform, it looked like he couldn't wait to get things started. They always say it's not about who did it first, but who did it best. And after seeing the vision for the show and the great people around it, I truly believe we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And luckily for Ak, the show was a big hit. The show's YouTube viewership was constantly strong. In fact, it gained hundreds of thousands to millions of views per episode or clip. And its comment sections, Twitter discussions, and memeability kept it trending frequently, especially during its first year. However, as DJ Akademiks' fame and audience grew, Akademiks felt like he could take on anything or anyone. And over the course of his career, as I spoke about earlier, he would beef with countless female rappers, but not just any female rapper. In fact, he dared to go at the queen of rap, Nicki Minaj. The year after Ak landed that big job with Complex, the drama between him and Nicki Minaj began, when Nicki released her album Queen. At the time, Nicki was facing major pressure from rising rap stars like Cardi B, and Queen's performance was seen as a critical moment in her career. So when Akademiks posted that Nicki's first week sales were going to land at number 2 versus Travis Scott's Astroworld, which was already in its second week, the queen had to respond and save her image. Nicki immediately replied with fake news, adding, "This is wrong, real numbers come out on Sunday." However, Nicki wasn't done just yet. Instead, she took to Twitter to rant about all the pressure and hate that she was getting, writing things like, "This is what happens when you release a great body of work after they spent millions to ruin you, lol. 4 albums later, still breaking records, #1 in 86 countries after they said it was a rap. Praise God, he's about to expose them." They're writing about 69 because hashtag queen is flawless. And according to Nicki, she wasn't going to let anyone get away with trashing her name. "I'm supposed to keep letting these people get money to bully me behind the scenes and not say anything? Yikes." Even though Nicki never explicitly said Akademiks' name in some of her later tweets, he continued to interpret her strays as shots towards him. So he made sure to up the ante. He reposted one of his older tweets stating, "Rappers are professional liars. I've been said that. I don't want none of y'all to ever refer to anything I'm associated with as fake news ever again in your life." But as we all know, Ak is quick to counter. Even though he wasn't name dropped, he still responded, writing, "Can we get some names and receipts on these claims, Nicki? Not sure if these tweets were indirect after I announced sales, but low-key, I don't care about none of y'all, lol. And nobody could pay me and make anybody look like anything." He argued that he wasn't being biased, writing, "And to be clear, maybe others get paid to make Cardi B look better than you, but be specific. When you start kicking her with the sales and stats, I'll post that too. I won't care what she thinks about that later." However, DJ Akademiks was never one to hold back, so he didn't stop there. Instead, he gave his blunt opinion on the album and its rollout, stating,
"She dropped an album called Queen, and after a week, we're getting numerous sources that are saying, and by the way, my inside sources confirmed that they said, yo, listen, Nicki sold 190,000 first week. Okay, Travis Scott in his second week sold 225,000.
Here, he explained why artists and labels care so much about numbers.
News. Now, she's basically saying the numbers are fake news, and this is where I got to get into why these rappers and even labels are so pressed over numbers, because the numbers define their success in the eyes of many fans, and believe me, they care.
According to Ak, these album sales numbers, since fans are using this to interpret whether you're still at the prime of your career or starting to fall off.
A lot of people are wondering, is she about to fall off, or is she still the queen? Her album name is called Queen. She has to do great numbers. And also, keep in mind, if Travis Scott's second week is coming in this week, her first week can't be less than his second week, you know?
And just to add more pressure to Nicki, Ak said,
"You know why? She's a queen." Also, keep in mind, Cardi B did 255. So 190, while it's not bad for Nicki Minaj, it is not queen-like, and it might change the perception of people who might think there's a new queen.
Unfortunately, Nicki's album sales were about to be worse than expected. Fortunately, she had her label to back her up.
Nicki Minaj was on pace to sell about 120,000 records before her label, and I'm not blaming her at all, because everybody's starting to do it, before her label started doing a whole bunch of tricks and gimmicks.
On his platforms, he criticized Nicki's marketing strategies, accusing her of inflating numbers.
They're introducing bundles so you could buy merch, and the merch is bundled with a digital copy of the album that gets still sold as a album, so you buy a shirt and it's like you bought an album.
And speculated that her team was manipulating streaming data.
Nicki even went as far, and it's not her, I'm not really trying to blame her, it's her label. They put a song that she's a featured on, which is Fifi, a top 5 song in the country, on her album as a bonus track. You know why? To run them streams up.
And all of this didn't sit right with Nicki. While she didn't respond at the time, things were about to change in the following year. See, when Joe Budden appeared as a guest on Nicki's Queen Radio, she recalled that both Joe and Akademiks were instrumental in starting the false narrative about the motorsport issue about her and Cardi B. And if you're unfamiliar with this issue, well, the controversy began when Cardi B mentioned in an interview that Nicki's verse had been altered after Cardi was added to the track. Nicki expressed that this false narrative was misleading and hurtful. In the interview, Nicki also took a moment to throw shade, calling Akademiks Joe's sidekick.
When I explained how motorsport came about, and you were one of the people who, I believe it might have been you and your sidekick Akademiks.
And on top of that, she'd even straight up embarrass Ak even more by calling him
sidekick Alvin the Chipmunk Akademiks. I'm not sure.
That is not.
Hold on.
That's your sidekick.
That was your sidekick. That was your sidekick.
And of course, Ak wasn't going to let this disrespect slide. Just like that, Akademiks went off. In a Twitch rant, his responses were brutal. Early in the stream, he made sure that he wasn't here to defend Joe Budden or play cleanup for their podcast drama.
The best thing you should do is go up to this little Joe Budden show and deal with him, because y'all got some personal relationship and all type of... Leave my name the fuck on out of it.
In fact, he told Joe directly to stop asking surface level questions and instead...
So fuck what she thinks. We've been talking about this Nicki hate train for 18 months. Ask her about Drake.
So where does Drake come into all this? Well, this is part of their beef the year prior when Nicki tried to expose Spotify for allegedly punishing her while rewarding Drake with a better promo. Writing on Twitter, Spotify put Drake's face on every playlist, but told me they'd have to teach me a lesson for playing my music 10 minutes early on #QueenRadio, even though they've been giving my music away for years, for free, and I'm one of Spotify's top artists of all time, which Ak was quick to brush off as a conspiracy theory, as he reposted Nicki's tweets and mocked them, stating, "Nicki throws Spotify and Drake under the bus. Somebody gotta tell sis that Drake got OVO radio on Apple Music, just like she got Queen Radio. Spotify just messed with him, because he was the poppin' thing to do at the moment." So Ak wasn't just throwing shade at this point. He was really digging in and stating facts. In fact, he even pointed out that Nicki's 2019 single, Megatron, was a massive flop, stating,
"Drake, that's what we want to know about. Ask her about that and ask her why the is her music flopping. Megatron went on the charts and fell the off in 4 weeks. She can't stay on the chart unless it's a remix."
On top of that, he also made a petty promise on stream, saying,
"I will sit here and from now on, Nicki, since we want to really put the microscope on every time you drop a song, I will detail and categorize it and track it till it drops off the chart."
However, according to Akademiks, it wasn't really Nicki's main problem.
Talk about what you need to talk about. Why your music is flopping. Why you're not putting out the hottest shit. Why you're riding waves of other niggas.
But with the insults that he threw, he still managed to commend Nicki for what she's good at.
"You could still rap. You're one of the best still rapping. But when you're making bop, 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 out of here."
Unfortunately, that's probably one of the nicer things Ak has said in this rant, because right after, he'd compare her to her biggest rival yet.
"Better than Cardi, but Cardi making better songs. This is 2019, niggas share about songs. You could rap here. My name is Megatron. Nobody gives a f."
However, in a weird moment, Ak would also express his gratitude for Nicki.
Anyway, I'm glad Nicki Minaj mentioned me, because the chipmunk and the sidekick would love to put the focus on your music. So I'm gonna have every week, I'm petty.
See, at the time, Akademiks was starting to reach his peak, and having the queen of rap recognize and beef with you was a massive achievement for him. But when it came to disrespecting his name, Ak said this:
"When you engage with me, now I have full reign to speak about your music failures. And you have a lot, Nicki. You're a queen and you are a legend. I could never take that from you. But right now, you are drowning."
So at first, Nicki's response just seemed like another light jab. She called him a chipmunk and a side chick. So was it really that bad for Akademiks to go off on her like that? Well, Akademiks would soon find out that you don't just talk to the queen of rap like that without consequences. And he found out when Nicki slid into his DMs. See, what started as an internet back and forth suddenly became much darker, because back in September of 2019, Akademiks shared that Nicki hit him with a series of heated DMs that took things beyond just music or the internet.
I got a DM. The DM said, "Yo, you in New York?" No, I'm like, "Yo, where you at? Or when you gonna be in New York?"
At first, Akademiks was naive. He thought that he'd also get a Nicki Minaj interview like Joe Budden did, since she already mentioned his name a couple times. Unfortunately though, Ak was wrong. See, in the DMs, Nicki wrote this:
"You been mad since I made a joke about you with Joe on my show. The people you rep. Who the f I rep? Does Nicki think I'm in a gang?"
However, that didn't stop him from mocking Nicki.
I ain't gonna lie. When she said that, I said, "Yo, could you imagine like Nicki typing this on some Queen Radio shit? Send!"
But as he read through the DMs, it looked like things were starting to heat up, because Nicki was now involving Ak's loved ones.
She said, "I know too much about your family for you to be playing with me, you ass rat. Where you at now?" I was so flabbergasted.
See, when Nicki threatened his family, Ak had the guts to keep on playing.
I said, "Noted." She said, "Where you at?" Yo, Nicki gangsta, bro. Nicki gangsta, bro. Where you at, n***? Show us some location, nigga.
However, she wasn't really impressed, as she sent another warning.
"See each other at some point, I'm sure. Take care, babe. I don't want to, take care, babe."
On top of that, she'd even involved 6ix9ine, saying that Akademiks was feeling sad now that he was gone.
"Nicki, you should really have a lot of respect when you even mention 6ix9ine's name. Like, you literally, begged to get a song on your album that you could sell some more records. Like, you were flapping."
But when Nicki's tactics weren't scaring Ak, she tried a different route.
"You're trying to do an intimidation play. It's corny. It's corny."
This time, she involved her husband, and it's petty.
She says, "Okay, cool, my husband want to speak to you. Send your addy or your phone number." Nothing left to talk about.
According to the DMs, Nicki kept on trying to get Ak's location since her husband wanted to speak with him. According to Ak though, she already has his address since her fans, the Barbs, kept on leaking his info. In fact, Ak even claimed that her husband had already texted him 2 minutes after the DMs. Ultimately, Akademiks just responded with a heart, and that was the end of the conversation. However, this wasn't the only time Nicki sent her husband to do her dirty work. See, during Nicki's lengthy beef with Cardi, at one point, Kenneth Petty decided to send threatening messages to Cardi B's husband, Offset.
Offset, where you at?
What's poppin'? What's poppin'?
Where's my
money, man? What's up?
Yeah.
Where the niggas is at, man?
Yeah.
Huh?
You don't know. They said you don't know. Zoom.
Plan that vacation. You planning your funeral.
But unfortunately for Petty, this only landed him in legal trouble since he was ordered to serve 120 days of home detention after violating the terms of his probation. So when Ak heard the news, he didn't hold back. According to him,
I don't know nobody with a good a good story about Nicki.
See, from his perspective, Nicki has continued to give the fans a facade of her being a nice person behind the scenes. According to Ak,
for anybody who's had real interactions with her, they've realized that she doesn't see anybody as someone that she should respect. Definitely not as equals. Definitely not as someone that she can't control.
Ak also added that Nicki Minaj thinks she's a gangsta bully.
Nicki Minaj actually thinks that because she married a top-ranking blood member of some set, she could threaten and intimidate people with that guy.
And Ak might have a point here since he experienced this firsthand. On top of that, he claimed
he only knows what he knows. He don't know nothing about the music industry. He's a crash dummy. He's been crashed out multiple times before. It's the reason why he's on federal probation or parole.
However, with all the dissing that Ak has done, many rappers and personalities in the hip-hop world were actually worried for safety. For instance, Gilly the Kid shared some advice to Ak when he interviewed him, saying,
"You say you're a civilian, right? But yet, you telling to pull up, right? You inviting to drama."
See, according to Gilly, Akademiks was playing a dangerous game.
And you saying, when you get there, I ain't gonna do nothing to you. I'm just gonna defend myself. But what if actually pull up?
And in some ways, he was right. Ak really needed to think carefully since there's still a possibility that all of the trolling could come back and harm him.
And then actually pull out, because I'm from the streets and I know the first nigga on the draw lay the law. Ain't no defending yourself when that motherfucker cooker come out.
Gilly added that Ak should be more mindful of the energy he puts out on the internet and advised him to just be true to himself. However, Ak wasn't done just yet. See, he then also publicly responded in an Everyday Struggle episode, saying,
"This is signs of a meltdown. This is signs of a downward spiral. I don't know what she's going on with, but maybe her game of intimidating bloggers and media members, it's worked."
According to him, this wasn't the first time Nicki tried this tactic.
It seemed like, remember she got at some journalist who criticized her, and eventually that journalist got fired.
But unfortunately, Ak had to let her know she messed with a different type of journalist. See, for most people, getting threatened by Nicki Minaj and her husband would be a reason to lay low, but Akademiks saw differently. At the time, he wasn't yet the household name that he is now, and in his own words, this kind of attention was a boost.
Keep it all the way public. This is how I came up, baby. Like, this is great. So she really just gave me content. I'm gonna pray for Nicki Minaj while I'm gonna avoid her and her husband.
And in the end, he warned everybody.
Apparently she says, they're on my heels. You feel me? So if anything happens, Nicki did.
But Ak didn't stop there. See, in the wake of this beef, he also called for backup. In retaliation, and just to push Nicki even more, Akademiks resurrected his rap persona, Lil Ak, and released a diss track called Take Care Babe, just a month after Nicki and his husband threatened him. In the song, Lil Ak tackled the DMs, rapping, "Wait, you be crying in my convo? Your career slow-mo. Yeah, they don't want you in the league, time is up. I smell fatigue, sit down, you reached your peak." In fact, he even used Nicki's words against her for the outro, rapping, "Show us some location, we'll see each other at some point, sure, take care." However, this diss track wasn't enough. Akademiks would continue to slander Nicki's name for years after this incident. See, after all the disses and the threats, Akademiks would still attack Nicki back in 2023. When Nicki Minaj was paid $7 million for a Queen radio deal with Amazon's AMP platform, Ak criticized it as underwhelming. He compared it to her last Apple deal, reportedly worth $20 million, and accused her of lacking impactful content on the show.
Not even knocking it. Your program is kind of dirt because, I expected some things, as you kept saying you was going to get into some things. You ain't getting into a motherfucking thing. So this is why people are here to watch me now, because I'm going to get into some things.
However, during this rant, he didn't just ridicule Nicki's podcast. He also dropped massive bombshells that could damage Nicki's career. According to Akademiks,
"Grandma, you got to get sober. The whole industry called me yesterday. She back on that shit. They're calling you a crackhead."
On top of that, Ak would even say that Nicki's basically the female version of Famous Dex, who was known for his struggles with substance abuse at the time, while also adding that Nicki had behavior issues as well.
How many times you have been crashing out privately that people who cared about you and respected your brand buried videos, paid people off because you're just a wild magnet. You're allegedly.
The allegations surrounding Nicki at the time, it didn't help that a video of her hanging out with 40 men surfaced online.
There's 40 in the studio with Nicki Minaj. Let me be clear, and let me now address, and for everybody, there's rappers. You can't name 40 rappers in this video. There's 4 rappers.
And according to Ak, her fans were dumb if they believed that these people around Nicki were all rappers.
The rest of these are goons. I'm sorry to tell you.
POV, the people behind Nicki were there just to intimidate, not collaborate.
Big Zoo's best friends are in the room with you. Stop playing. They got nothing to do with music. That's gang shit. That's goons. Stop playing. So all the little barbs could be like, oh no, this all rappers. Ain't 40 rappers up in there. Okay? It's 4 rappers.
He added,
like Nicki, if you're trying to be whatever and catch a Rico, shorty, go ahead and do it. Don't show your goons, have your goons start doing shit for you. Because at this point, you're looking like a goofy.
You see, in Ak's point of view, the people behind Nicki were there just to intimidate, not to collaborate.
Big Zoo's best friends are in the room with you. Stop playing. They got nothing to do with music. That's gang shit. That's goons. Stop playing. So all the little barbs could be like, oh no, this all rappers. Ain't 40 rappers up in there. Okay? It's 4 rappers.
He also added,
like Nicki, if you're trying to be whatever and catch a Rico, shorty, go ahead and do it. Don't show your goons, have your goons start doing shit for you. Because at this point, you're looking like a goofy.
However, Akademiks' fight with Nicki wasn't just about bad blood. You see, when Akademiks beefed with Nicki, he didn't just criticize her music, he was also trying to get clout, which he openly admitted. But what Ak didn't know was that it only showed how desperate he was for attention, and unfortunately that desperation showed when he interviewed Kanye West. So fast forward to 2025, a year filled with controversy, Akademiks still tried to take it up a notch when he invited Kanye West for an interview. And this interview went viral, racking up over 800,000 concurrent live viewers and peaking at over 1 million, but this wasn't just another headline grabbing stunt. It was much darker than most people thought it would be. See, at first, it looked like things would go normally.
How's everything with you, brother?
To a place of refuge right quick.
The legend, man.
Ak greeted him and Kanye asked for some time. But in a not so shocking turn of events, Kanye suddenly appeared wearing a black KKK style robe and hood. And you know what? Ak seemed to be unbothered by it, like it was all planned.
Okay, you could get a good angle if I'm sitting here? Wherever you want. You can sit right here. Yeah. What do you think? Okay.
He'd even fix his chain for him. However, this wasn't any chain.
I see you with the bust down chain too, man.
Bro, took that Nazi chain and made it bust, but I wanted to wear it with this, but the part comes down a little bit too low.
To make things even worse, Kanye would even confess to owning another robe, saying,
"That was my fault. I didn't want to have children with this person after the first 2 months of being with her."
Yeah, not a great look. But the choice of DJ Akademiks as the interviewer was no coincidence, as rumors were spreading that Kanye picked Akademiks because he knew it would trigger people. One insider said he chose DJ Akademiks specifically because he knew it would ruffle feathers. Why? Because at the time of this interview, Ak was already entangled in his own scandal. Remember the 15-year-old gamer and the separate essay lawsuit? So by choosing Akademiks, Kanye was doing what he does best, aligning himself with controversy to boost his own name. He saw Akademiks not just as a convenient host, but also as a shield, since Ak's own scandals would make Kanye's actions seem only a little worse. In fact, music critic Anthony Fantano also shared the same sentiments.
And let it be known that Kanye willingly and voluntarily decided to have this interview and conversation with a man who is recorded having a conversation, a grooming type conversation with a minor.
See, right at the beginning, Fantano smelled something sus about Ye choosing Akademiks for the interview.
And oh, save the children and think of the children and think of the Illuminati this, that, and that. You are literally helping to platform a man who had sexual conversations for the whole world to see with a child.
So clearly, Fantano did not respect Akademiks' way of covering news, but this wasn't anything new. You see, far before becoming one of the largest voices in hip-hop media, Akademiks wasn't just another small YouTuber. See, before being Drake's cheerleader, Akademiks covered the violent Chicago drill scene. In fact, it even had a separate YouTube channel titled The War in Chirac, known for being notorious for how insensitive it was. His videos mainly focused on the city's gang violence, months. He gave updates on fights, beefs, and even introduced OG gang members. And if you look at the channel right now, it still has over 300,000 subscribers, even though it's been inactive for years. The last video posted was 7 years ago, but in its peak, this channel was raking in millions of views. And even though there were a lot of people curious about the gang scene in Chicago, tackling this type of coverage still had its repercussions. See, Akademiks had a huge problem because he didn't have any ties to anyone in Chicago. And to the people actually living in these war zones, they felt like he wasn't just documenting their reality. Instead, he was exploiting it. In fact, for the people engaged in the war of Chirac, Akademiks was just an outsider making money off of their struggles with the sarcastic commentary. So Ak should have known that he was playing a dangerous game with his content, and in fact, it didn't take long for someone from Chirac to press him about it. You see, in June of 2019, Chicago rapper Vic Mensa had enough of Akademiks. So when he appeared as a guest on Everyday Struggle, he immediately confronted Ak about it. From the moment Vic Mensa sat across Akademiks, you could already feel the tension in the air. And when the conversation shifted to drill music and its impact, it got from bad to worse.
And the music was a real life depiction of that. Like, how did you feel about that?
With a straight face, Vic aired out his true feelings about Ak, saying,
I wanted to slap you in your face, honestly. And I'm just seeing you here, so I'm like, this is a tame environment, so I would keep it to my words.
According to Vic, he told Akademiks that he had no right to give a stance on Chirac's situation.
I think, ain't had no right. You specifically, like, you ain't never have a right. Like, whatever made you feel like you had a space to have a perspective on our people dying on a daily basis?
He added that making a career out of people's passing was cowardly.
Not in that way. You really built a following off of clowning our deaths, people that I really know.
Since Vic knew for a fact that Ak wouldn't have the same energy in real life.
You know what's up about it and why I said the things I said to you is because were we to be in a room, there's no cameras, there's no security, you see us, you wouldn't make no jokes. You wouldn't make a single joke.
So what did Ak do? He tried to talk his way out of it. He reasoned that his content wasn't all negative, saying,
and whether you agreed with it, right? And again, you're very close, you're involved in it. Chief Keef didn't like me, Dirt didn't like me. I mean, I think they grew to understand that the content was not just negative.
However, Vic completely disagreed.
It was just negative, man.
No,
come on, boy.
You don't think it was nothing constructive about it?
There was nothing constructive about it. And I'm gonna tell you the truth, I really think you a bitch.
And in fact, he also admitted that he wasn't the only one heated about Ak's content.
Like, I was waiting to see you. And it's a couple people waiting to see you.
And this made it unsafe for Ak to even visit Chicago, with Vic explaining,
you really couldn't even stand outside. You get chased out the mall.
Wait, I do get love in Chicago though. Like, I mean,
the mall, DJ Akademiks.
At that point, Ak really had to explain his part since Vic was clearly getting heated. According to Akademiks, his videos weren't all satire and clowning gang culture. He explained that he always ensures that he puts out a positive message in his videos, but unfortunately, Vic disagreed.
I disagree that it was just all clowning. Right? Now, there's satire used, right? And I know exactly what you're talking about. It's War and Chirac, by the way, if you guys don't know. I always had that positive message. Yo, y'all gotta cut it out.
And it didn't really help Ak's case when even the host of the show, Joe Budden, was siding with Vic.
Satire is a form of clowning.
No. Yeah, but it's not on some, like, with no type of responsibility.
In fact, Joe would even go as far as agreeing with Vic that Ak wouldn't joke about the things he talks about online.
Would you make a joke?
A joke about what?
No,
you wouldn't. Okay, give me some.
Hey, don't waste my camera time. He wouldn't make the joke.
On the other hand, Akademiks also argued that his videos offered advice to young people, which Vic immediately countered.
Who made you eligible to even weigh in? You sitting at a computer
weighs in.
Typing.
Wait. Everybody weighs in on everything.
Talking about real life. You talking about real shit. What you know about that, bro?
See, in Vic Mensa's POV, Akademiks' content was parasitic, and joking about young black men hurting each other is the work of cowards. In fact, the whole War of Chirac series wasn't even about the music anymore, it was about violence. And for the people who were struggling in the war, none of it was a joke. In fact, this was deeply personal.
Just kind of sick when it's real people dying young. I'm at those funerals. I just left one of those funerals on Friday. You feel me? From a 22-year-old 5 times on 61st Street, and that's something that you would take.
Vic opened up about his friend's recent passing and said that he was happy that he wasn't a rapper so that Ak couldn't clown him. Fortunately for Ak, Vic's rant finally ended and they decided to move on to a different topic.
But we should just move on.
We should move on.
Yeah.
But you know who couldn't move on? Akademiks. You see, the day after the confrontation, Akademiks tried to explain his side. Initially, he admitted that he was caught off guard by the sudden aggression. However, in Ak's head, this was all a misunderstanding because how much he loved Chicago artists, stating,
hey, truthfully, I love Chicago artists. I've focused on Chicago artists over the years because I've loved what they did, and I never thought there was really media representation for the movement and impact that they did.
He also talked about how during that time, he let Vic voice out his opinions.
He said what he had to say, and of course, I'm not gonna, I know I ain't no thug. I ain't gonna be sitting here like I'm a hey, he said what he had to say. I think that's important.
But according to Ak, Vic got it all wrong. He explained that he never clowned any deceased person, ever. In fact, he also stated that he always felt disgusted by the people committing these crimes. Unfortunately for Vic, if he thought that pressing Akademiks would hurt his credibility, it actually had the opposite effect. Because instead of getting backlash, this beef only fueled the idea that Akademiks' platform was unstoppable, and no matter how much criticism you gave him, he wasn't going anywhere. However, the Vic Mensa situation showed that rappers weren't afraid to check him in person, especially when they felt like he was giving out false narratives that could affect real lives. But Vic Mensa wasn't the only rapper who felt that way. One of DJ Akademiks' many public beefs was the time when he and a rapper named Freddie Gibbs went at it. For some context, Freddie Gibbs is a Grammy-nominated rapper who's worked alongside huge names in hip-hop such as The Alchemist and Madlib, both of whom are touted as legendary producers in the game. Not only that, you might remember him for recently accusing Drake and Party Next Door of stealing the imagery and name from his earlier album titled Soul Sold Separately, which might remind you of something. But anyways, how did his beef with DJ Akademiks start in the first place? Well, it all started when he called out an OG rapper, Young Jeezy, whom he was once signed to, in an interview.
Young Jeezy is musically irrelevant. Let's be real, dog. You know what I mean? Be real. Did you listen to his last album? No, you with it. You know what I mean? I love fam.
I'd like to comment on it.
No, we don't got to comment on shit.
I just took a shot. You asked me a question.
Bro.
I don't want to be here
He's
while
a
you...
legend.
Listen.
A legend.
I will say this.
But right now, you're irrelevant.
You asked me a question.
And what you want to do? You want to fight?
After Freddie called Jeezy out, Ak proceeded to talk smack about him on Complex.
But here he says that Jeezy is a legend, but goes on to say that he's irrelevant right now.
If Jeezy is relevant, Freddie Gibbs, you're absolutely relevant as well.
Also adding, if Jeezy dropped an album right now, he'd sell 50K. Relevancy means, is your music actually doing anything? And to be honest, other than the few people who mess with Freddie Gibbs, what relevancy does he have? In response to this, Freddie Gibbs took to Twitter and dropped t-shirts with Akademiks' face plastered on a Teletubby, saying, all proceeds go towards getting this guy out of the rap game. goodcrack.com/shop/Fakademiks. See, after Ak clapped back and tried to go band for band with him, Freddie replied by clowning him even more. Boy, shut up, you pay for Cat as well. I'll give a bad woman 5K if they admit to sleeping with Akademiks. Afterwards, Akademiks saw this and replied by saying that he was gonna ignore Freddie's antics, and that whenever the rapper was ready, he was free to come on to Everyday Struggle with proof. However, responding to Freddie only made the situation worse, because the latter went on to troll him even more, writing, man, you built like a Teletubby. He also threatened to squeeze Akademiks live on camera. So afterwards, Akademiks hilariously went on a drunken rant on a stream talking about the situation. While Ak was clearly intoxicated, that's when he started to let Freddie know how he felt about him.
See, nigga like Freddie Gibbs, I'm gonna tell you why I don't respect. Because Freddie Gibbs is a nigga who always gonna rely on the fact that people don't like me.
He added that there was no reason for him to back down from someone like Freddie Gibbs.
I got more money than Freddie Gibbs. Why the fuck Freddie? I guess this is what my frustration is. I'm tired of y'all making me seem like some little to like bum nigga like Freddie Gibbs.
But here's where I actually messed up. You see, he didn't just diss Freddie in his drunken state. He also mentioned an American model and TV personality and went on a misogynistic rant against her, saying,
Chrissy Teigen, Instagram. I just feel like, yo, one time she sneaked this to me, so f that hoe. Straight up.
As you can expect, Complex immediately took issue with this and decided to suspend Akademiks from Everyday Struggle for a couple of episodes. And what made the situation even worse for him is that the higher-ups at Complex basically forced him to apologize to both Freddie and Chrissy for his tirade.
You know, I want to officially offer an apology, and, you know, I've also spoke to Complex leadership about it, you know, and they as well agree that, you know, it was out of pocket.
So having to apologize to someone you just cussed out live on camera has to be embarrassing, especially by your superiors. So you think that would be the end of their beef, right? Well, not exactly. Because one day, DJ Akademiks finally had enough and decided to expose Freddie Gibbs. See, Freddie always carried himself as a tough rapper, someone who doesn't take any nonsense from others. He raps about violent things, like burning his ops and all of that. However, when Ak found footage of his old hood with a few individuals talking smack about Freddie while rapping, Ak knew that he struck gold.
King Mac with the Grand Duke, get a nigga round folded and flat in the street. FREDDIE.
And these niggas got bars!
He taunted them by saying,
Frederick, is this your block? Frederick! I'm like, genius, I'm about to break the fucking bars down. He said, what? I thought that was his block. That was his hood. That's his streets.
Although Freddie tried to show everyone he was still welcome in his hood by uploading this video,
Frederick, you left your homies in the hood!
The fact that he had to go there and prove to Ak that he was still accepted spoke volumes as to how rent-free Ak lived in his mind. To prove that point, he started to chant cussing Ak out. But exposing Freddie Gibbs using his own hood wasn't the only thing Ak did. He also shed light on the fact that his dad was a police officer.
His father is a police officer. I just want to paint the irony of this whole thing. A kid who grew up playing with his father's badge, handcuffs, police uniform, and also took allowance that came from his father's police salary
said, what should I do with all of these things at my disposal? He went to a fucking studio to make up a fake persona of being some type of gangster.
And because of that, the two continue to spat and have back and forths with each other on Twitter, where they apparently even tried to set up a boxing match with the conditions that if Ak loses to Freddie, he'd have to leave hip-hop for good.
Breaking news, who is Freddie Gibbs training to fight?
DJ Akademiks. I'm a solid 185. DJ Akademiks a soft 204.
However, the fight never happened, as Freddie Gibbs caught a severe case of the beats not long after the hands of another rapper named Jim Jones. And although this wasn't necessarily at the hands of Ak, you can imagine how happy he was to report it.
Boy, talking about a boxing match, I already got boxed up in prime rib 112. What's going on? Frederick! I guarantee you down about a precinct filing a report right now.
I mean, you'll never see Ak this happy about reporting a beatdown.
Jim Jones just smacked the koofy off this clown. You know what he's gonna do? Get back online and start trolling. He got a severe case of the beats.
3 months later, Freddie Gibbs was on headlines once again for getting another case of the beats on camera. This was the second time that he got ran up on while eating outside. And you already know that DJ Akademiks was the one who broke the story first while taunting the rapper, writing, Freddie Gibbs got some straining. Video of him getting earth, wind, and fire out of him. At Freddie Gibbs, care to comment? On the other hand, while Ak's beef with Freddie Gibbs might have proved his obsession with proving dominance over rappers and his need to win online feuds, his relationship with his next rapper wasn't just about beef, it was something much weirder, an obsession. You see, over the years, there's no denying that Ak has always sided with Drake.
Top 5 you smoking on Kendrick? Cause my top 5 is Drake.
Now, you might think that Drake would return the favor and give props to Akademiks for always being there for him and being the one-man PR machine for Drizzy. But the thing is, the relationship is so one-sided that Drake chose to appear on Aiden Ross's stream instead of Ak's, which is honestly sad given how much Ak rides the OVO rapper's name. To make it worse, watch what happened after he tried to comment on one of Drake's Instagram lives.
Yo, Akademiks, dip from my live, man. Real talk, man. I'm really like that, bro. Need to dip from my live, man. Real talk. Stop trying to get your shine.
Telling your biggest glazer to hop off your live stream is crazy work. However, this parasocial relationship that Ak keeps swearing by till this day only got worse when the great rap beef happened back in 2024. For some context, after Drake dropped his Push Ups diss track, a clapback to Kendrick's iconic Like That verse, Ak was quick to celebrate Drake's response by saying,
Holy shit, pull up! God damn! I love the beat drop out. I love all this shit. Holy! Ladies and gentlemen, this is a shot that will be heard around the f***ing world.
While fans were quick to point out how biased Ak was by implying that Drake had already won, it didn't matter to him at all. As we all know, the long wait for Euphoria was about to begin. But while other fans waited patiently for K-Dot to drop, Ak went the other way and painted the build-up as a sign of weakness. In fact, he counted down all the days that Kendrick kept quiet. But when Euphoria finally released, Ak took to Twitch to livestream his initial reactions to the song. Unfortunately for him, Drake was in an unfavorable position, especially after the iconic bars where Kendrick rapped. Ak paused the video to collect his thoughts, and it was like he was being the one dissed and said,
Enough! Enough! He dropped a 6-minute track. Hold up, man.
However, this was only the beginning of the feud, and Ak was right in the middle of it. Days after Euphoria, K-Dot dropped 616 in LA, a warning shot aimed at Drake. But more notably, the track even included a bar that called out Akademiks by name. Still, Drake refused to listen and dropped his quote-unquote red button diss track, Family Matters. It had everything a Drake fan would want. And of course, Ak loved it so much and was more than certain that the beef was over, resulting in a W for Drake.
All that hype only lasted 12 hours. I told you the boy lock and loaded. Big Ak in the building. I don't care about that name check. This is what the GOAT had to say.
But in a move nobody expected, Kendrick went back to back and dropped one of the most disrespectful hip-hop diss tracks of all time, Meet the Grams. As you can imagine, even Ak couldn't believe it.
What the f, man? What the fuck? This thing is coming some random shit like this, bro. What the fuck? Bruh, the fuck is he talking about? What the fuck is he talking about?
Funny enough, it felt like Ak was the one on the receiving end of the disses with the way he was acting.
I was vibing. Drizzy responded. I'm cooling. Having a good time. I was about to go get the Henny. What the f did this Kendrick drop and start talking about? What the f?
The very next day, K-Dot released the nail in the coffin for the rap battle with Not Like Us, much to Ak's disappointment and frustration.
Oh my God. Drake, you gotta shoot him, and you gotta shoot him now. I'm sorry. This is Drake's crib. Nah, Drake, you got this nigga, man. No, I'm joking. I'm joking about with that. Honestly, Drake got to go to Kendrick Lamar block and shoot a video. It's the only option. You got to go to his block and shoot a video.
And no matter how big of a Drake Glazer act was, even he couldn't hide how he felt about the song, saying,
"This Kendrick is now over here adding you to the registry, gang." I ain't gonna lie. This fucker is crip walking on this goddamn motherfucking beat, man.
Afterwards, with the whole bot allegations surrounding the viral diss track, Akademiks posted this story on Instagram with the caption, "No bots allowed in 2024, Spotify Wrapped." Even though Drake was his top artist in his Spotify Wrapped, it's wild to see that Kendrick, aka Drake's biggest op, coming in second. And once he got clowned for this, he took to Twitter to defend himself and try to explain it by saying, "Normally Kendrick Lamar wouldn't sniff my Spotify Wrapped, but he's number 2 on mine." The explanation for that is that's what happens when you beef with everyone's favorite rapper. We gotta listen to your too because of the beef. Beefing when it's just musical competition helps both artists. However, after trying to justify Kendrick's spot in his Wrapped, fans made fun of him even harder, writing a whole paragraph on why Kendrick Lamar is number 2 on your Wrapped is crazy. Although he tried to distance himself from the idea that he actually liked listening to Kendrick, it just wasn't working, due to no fault of his own. You see, he leaked his top songs of 2024 on stream one time. And can you guess what the number 1 song was?
Nah, Not Like Us is my number 1. I ain't gonna lie to you. It was. Not Like Us, Bent, Euphoria, Family Matters, and Push Ups. I don't even know how it was number 1. It was number 1 though.
Anyways, having K-Dot on his top streamed artist list isn't really surprising because back in 2017, when Ak was on the cusp of success with Everyday Struggle, he actually talked negatively about Drake and complimented Kendrick instead. To make it worse, he was caught on live air saying that Kendrick had a list of classic albums ever since he first started rapping.
I think all these are classic. like the niggas just puts his shit is amazing. Wait, what's the 3 you count? To Pimp a Butterfly. You said as a classic album? Yeah, I think the rapping on To Pimp a Butterfly is better than Good Kid, Mad City. The songs on Good Kid, Mad City.
And seeing Ak go from this to becoming a bona fide OVO Glazer was wild. After all, he just did a complete 180 and was dead set on being Drake's number 1 Glazer for some reason. And here's the sad part. Remember that time when Drake kicked him off his Instagram Live? That was the only time he's ever said Ak's name in public. Instead of collabing with his biggest fan, Drake instead chose to appear alongside the likes of XQC.
What's that? Wait, is that an album name?
Yeah, it's my name. It's my album.
Yeah, because album names, I'm not a name guy. Okay, whatever, it's your song. So it's an older, right? Because it's an older album.
And Aiden Ross.
What's the vibes? What are you listening to?
Music-wise?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you and P&D to drop that album, which you told me it was going to drop 3 weeks ago. You lied to me.
I know, you're right.
This culminated in one of Ak's streams where someone finally tried to open his eyes and get him to realize that Drake didn't mess with him at all.
He treating you like how when a thought's in a DM.
Stop.
Oh, I ain't trying to link her tonight. Keeping the book.
That don't make him a like that.
Act that does though. Act that does, cause when he needs you, he'll send you DMs. He'll play old buddy with you, but he really don't with you. Saying that's why niggas treating Drake like this, cause he's a.
The bottom line is that DJ Akademiks always goes out of his way to do so much for Drake, a rapper who he's never met, never given free tickets, never even given the time of day for an on-stream interview. Still, he chooses to compromise his integrity for the parasocial one-sided relationship for some reason. And because of this, it's no surprise that fans are quick to downplay Ak's role as a hip-hop journalist because of his erratic behavior whenever Drake's name comes up. With fans writing, "He ain't no journalist, this man is a Drake community manager." As well as, Ak loves Kendrick, he just can't admit it because Drake would cut him off completely. Drake definitely hates Ak, but keeps him on a tight leash for positive spins when he's in trouble. But as much as Ak likes to glaze Drake, the same can't be said for this other Canadian rapper. See, DJ Akademiks once found himself in a beef with Nav, the first brown boy to get it poppin', aka one of Toronto's biggest rappers signed to the Weeknd's EXO record label. Unlike his past feuds, this time Ak wasn't the one to instigate the beef. So how did their beef even begin in the first place? Well, back in 2020, Nav once again took to Twitter to call out DJ Akademiks for trying to cozy up to various rappers in order to gain their favor, writing, "Akademiks hop on and off eggplants so much, he probably got STDs. Ak later responded to the tweet, saying that Nav was too cold or irrelevant as a rapper to take seriously. "Sorry bro, I will only want Lizzo." By the way, this is the statement repeated by every rapper who cold. "I post the hot shit. Sorry." He then took to Twitter once again and wrote, "I post about rappers who are hot. If you cold, I won't be posting about you. If you ain't doing shit, I won't be posting about you. It's not eggplant writing. I don't get no money with none of y'all. It's called doing what the hell I want and covering who is hot." But Ak wasn't done there. He also alluded to the time when Nav said that he quote-unquote felt sick whenever paparazzi ignored him. Imagine being rich as hell, driving to where the paparazzi is at a $500,000 car and $1 million in jewelry and catching feelings because no one noticed you. Ak later added, "Seems like you eggplant riding the media. You hid your face for the first year you blew up, now you desperately want attention. Answer that." Hilariously, Nav tried to save face by saying, "Wasn't referring to myself, I even phrased it as an observation, looks like I struck a chord." However, Ak wasn't having it, as he continued to go in on Nav. saying backpedaling, address you dying for attention and being salty, you didn't get it. That's how you call out someone from the media. So after exposing Nav, he went on to diss his rap image and how soft the rapper was. I ain't never seen you call out a rapper. Why? They stole your style and went further with it, and you had to smile while you heard inside. You ain't never called him out on Twitter. But Ak still wasn't done. Once he was done calling Nav out on social media, he took things even further by heading to his live stream, his go-to platform, to diss him even more.
Then I see you ashamed of your face. You didn't even want to show it. And I'm like, okay, why are you ashamed of his face? It's mad ugly in hip hop. This is the era of ugly. Why are you ashamed of his face? What's going on with that?
Ak's disrespect didn't stop at the face shaming either. He also claimed that nobody would ever relate to Nav's music the way fans connected to NBA YoungBoys.
You know why I post about him every day? Let me give you the education, Nav. Because there's 5 million young black teenagers who faces some of the similar circumstances like YoungBoy. And I ain't talking about herpes and none of that. Get the goofy shit out of here.
He explained that nobody saw themselves in Nav no matter how hard he tried and what he did.
They see themselves in him. Who is seeing themselves in Nav? Who? Who is seeing themselves in Nav?
Furthermore, he also dissed Nav's music, insulting the way that they sound.
Oh, these taxes on my music, yeah. Get out of here, nigga. Tap, 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 tap. This sound like a Fortnite soundtrack. Click, 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 click.
That's not all, because Ak had more to say to Nav on stream.
Who? You got watched on your main single. You got watched by Meek. You like every other rapper. You just trying to get the conversation about yourself.
Afterwards, he advised Nav to make a hit record instead of riding off the other rappers' waves.
We're not talking about you right now, Nav. Get a record. Don't ride Uzi coattail to another collab. Where's your record?
After that, the two stayed relatively silent about each other until 2 years later when they reunited on Akademiks Off the Record podcast and laughed about their past feud while looking back on it.
Rappers, because it wasn't even me feeling the way. It was like, yo, people tagging me like, yo, you gonna let that talk about you like that? So one random day, Nav was like, yo, this mother, I can't remember what you said. You
I said, he be hopping on and off so much if I get STDs.
Ak finally had the opportunity to ask Nav what prompted him to post that tweet 2 years ago.
Please, what did I do?
Yeah, honestly,
in hindsight,
I can't remember exactly what triggered that thought, but it was, if I'm being honest, it's one of those thoughts that like you're supposed to digest before you spit it out.
Fortunately, the two finally squashed their beef and made up. But while Nav didn't exactly go hard when it came to disrespecting Ak, this next rapper, Erykah Badu, had other plans. See, there are also plenty of times when Ak was on the receiving end of the embarrassment, because as soon as Erykah Badu sat down, she felt a weird feeling upon seeing Akademiks.
You look very familiar.
I look very familiar?
Yeah.
Do you have YouTube?
Yeah.
Do you have Twitch?
Have we met before?
I don't think so. No, I would definitely know if I met you. Like you were.
We would remember.
Yeah, I would definitely remember.
But what's even weirder was that she couldn't seem to remember where she met Ak or who he looked like.
Wait, have you met some incarnation of him?
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm gonna think about it throughout the time.
What vibes are you getting from me right now?
I don't know.
Fortunately, she finally gave out clues.
It's the name Thomas. Thomas keeps coming to me.
Erykah looked very confused every time she looked at Akademiks, and as the interview progressed, Badu started to piece things together.
Damn, you look familiar.
I do? In a good way or a bad way?
I really hope we figure out this.
It's something nostalgic, like my childhood or something.
Oh, I might come from a different life.
Maybe.
But luckily for Ak, it looked like whatever or whoever he does resemble, it was positive.
A good vibe. Did you like him?
It's
Thomas
like my
character?
stomach inside is like tickling so much and turning over. You know, like a tickling feeling.
However, there were some parts of the interview where it felt like she was just messing with Ak.
It was a new sound and new feeling from a musician. Like he definitely helped propel a new
Say
wave.
propel one more time.
Propel.
One more time.
Propel.
One more time.
Propel. Am I up?
Unfortunately though, it looked like this interview was going to end without a big reveal. And at some point, Ak even decided to shoot his shot at Badu.
Have we figured out who Thomas is before we go?
It's coming to me. It actually
We might have to figure that out off camera. She might have to read my palm or something.
Are you flirting with the queen?
Listen, man. Hey, listen, Thomas is here at her service. Okay.
Clutch my pearl.
But instead of flirting back, she finally figured it out.
Listen, I got it.
You got it?
Yes.
Could it be divulged on
You're
camera?
not gonna believe it. It's so simple.
Oh,
it's
wow.
really simple.
Joe, get
You
out.
remind me, and it's Thomas because
According to Badu, she had seen Ak in a show.
there's a character on there who said Thomas all the time. She would stand in a chair. She said, Thomas! And you...
And for the final reveal, it was none other than...
You know who you look like? You look like... Jerry. The mouse from Tom and Jerry.
Hold up.
And just like that, this moment became a classic everyday struggle episode. See, Badu set it up like she was about to say something profound, pulling Akademiks into her world before hitting him with a punchline that completely shattered the moment. The way she built suspense made it 10 times funnier, and her deadpan delivery made it impossible to tell whether she was joking or completely serious. And just like that, the relationship soured quickly. Years later, as he was speaking on the Tory Lanez trial, a viewer in his chat brought up Badu's name, which seemed to trigger something deep inside him.
Here's another thing. Somebody said Erykah Badu working magic. Erykah Badu, let me tell you this. You keep my name out your mouth too.
It was like a switch flipped. What followed was one of his most disrespectful rants yet. Upon seeing Badu's name mentioned, Akademiks immediately went off, making it clear that he had been holding on to resentment for 2 years.
I see you mention, listen, that whole little everyday struggle was another era, my nigga. I'm down to violate all you niggas these days. What y'all got going on? You don't mention my name, please.
At that point, Ak decided to send out a warning.
I would like to let all y'all know I don't respect y'all. Ak don't respect y'all like y'all don't respect me. Because when I met all y'all all try to play me.
On top of that, he would also dig in Erykah's dating history.
I don't fuck with you after that. What's up now? What we finna do? Old ass will just keep getting by all these young popping. What we finna do? I ain't with none of y'all. Still.
And according to Ak, it didn't make sense that she was still following him.
I see that follow me. I'm like, why's you following me? I don't fuck with you. I'm not in on no joke with you. You and your little Twitter following or whatever the fuck you got. You came up in here raving around Sage and all that type of shit.
See, Akademiks was hurt about the joke because according to him, he initially tried to be respectful.
Came in here waving on top of wands and shit. I'm trying to be nice to you. Now I realize, oh, you was trying to play me like I'm some clown. Fuck you. How many rappers done ran through you? None of you. Stop playing.
However, it felt like this rant was too disrespectful. See, a lot of people thought Ak had crossed the line multiple times.
3 rappers done ran through you. You did all type of shit. You just like you a cum rag for these. You ain't about to play with me. You about to play with Big Ak. Cum rag. The fuck you talking about?
But maybe all these were just the result of chugging down alcohol on live stream.
That bitch can't mention me straight up. I'm telling you, I'm on that. I'm sorry. Y'all have to show me. You will have to show me. I'm sorry.
However, alcohol wasn't all to blame during this rant, and it looked like Ak had been holding this in for a while. See, in a separate interview, according to Akademiks, what ticked him off was what Erykah did after, stating, "But I seen her make a few vague references and kind of like retweet people, like, oh yeah, I got that guy," and I was like, you know, I'm the best with the gotcha, right? He explained that he didn't mind the Tom and Jerry joke. If me and you are making content, especially for my show, and you get a viral moment or give me a viral moment, I'm good to get paid. I don't care. That's one of the reasons Everyday Struggle was popping, because of all these things that happened. However, Erykah wasn't going to let this disrespect slide, so she took to Instagram Live to address Akademiks' rants, and as it turns out, she was actually surprised at what happened.
I learned something super valuable today, fam. You have to really be careful what you think and what you say out here.
See, in her head, it was all just fun and games, but it turned out to be much more.
I learned today that something I said 5 years ago, and just when we all laughed, actually triggered someone's really deep-rooted trauma.
However, she'd also take jabs at Ak, saying,
they kept it bottled up for a while and it hurt them so bad. Had them out in these streets acting real.
But the highlight of the response was when she did this.
And in honor of that, let's go. Badu on sale today, 5 p.m. You know it's rare and limited supply.
See, instead of fighting back, Erykah Badu decided to approach things differently. But as we all know, Ak wouldn't let anyone have the last laugh. So in his stream, he tried to act like the nice guy at first.
For a marketing person, you took advantage of it, and I don't applaud you. By the way, Erykah, like I know you went much, like, let me not call you that. No, you were doing too much little incense. I couldn't even watch you. I'm sorry.
In fact, he even claimed that he bought the incense.
Which, by the way, I think people usually buy your little incense that's supposedly smelling like your pussy. I think that's what, because it was called Badu pussy. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, though, all of this was just sarcasm.
I only bought it just to make sure it wasn't like BV on some real shit. You know what I mean? Because I was just hearing about too many niggas, so I was just trying to like, let me cop the incense. Maybe I gotta see if this got BV going on and some other. The pH balance might be fucked fucked up. But it's other
And this time, Ak wasn't drunk, but still he continued with the disrespect.
than that. Yo, Erykah, like, nah, it wasn't that serious. Like, you know what I mean? You got your little joke off before. I just had to call you a little used up comrade because if you know, you know. I'm sorry to tell you. I'm keeping it a bean.
On top of that, Akademiks also claimed that Erykah Badu was just clout chasing, stating,
I can see you're still in the clout chasing version. You're like 50, but it's all good. You're still clout chasing shit that, listen, like me saying this, like, yo, we could get cool and get you, you know, you could sell some more merch or whatever the you got going on. I don't care.
And even with the relentless trash talk, Ak still claimed that,
I'm not that hurt. I'm not that hurt about it. I just had to spin on you. Like, you spun on me a couple years ago. There ain't no expiration date on Get Back. That was my Get Back. I'm sorry.
See, in his head, the rant was just revenge for embarrassing him on his own show, stating,
I say you a used up comrade. I'm sorry. That was my Get Back. It was Get Back from years ago. Sorry. It's cool. I ain't tripping on it. And I do love you. I think you're still a legend. You're a beautiful person. Yeah.
But Erykah Badu wasn't the only person who despised Ak. See, another rapper who made it clear that he wanted nothing to do with Akademiks was the late West Coast rapper Nipsey Hussle. You see, in an interview with a Chicago radio station back in 2017, DJ Akademiks' name came up.
It's kind of because DJ Akademiks is a meatball to me, so he said stuff. He said some stuff about Chicago, rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, he's a buster. He's a weirdo. Niggas that whoop his ass in real life. He behind the camera, and you gotta just let clowns be clowns, man.
After voicing out how much he disliked Ak, he went on to tell a story of him walking out during an interview on Everyday Struggle because he didn't like how Ak conducted himself.
Man, like I was on Everyday Struggle, and I walked out just because. You know, I'm not a clown. I don't come from that world of like you make jokes about. We used to f niggas up. Excuse me, are we live?
No, we good. We can bleep this.
We used to f niggas up for trying to film fights.
Right.
In the hood.
The West Coast rapper particularly hated how Ak and his platform leaned more towards covering beef and gossip.
We ain't covering no drama. That's called instigating.
Right.
And what's up with you while you at it?
Right.
So you know, like him get weeded out quick. He got a little internet run going on, but. You know, he just gotta let himself destruct because he's on the path.
To be honest, a couple of years later, this interview seems almost prophetic given the recent allegations surrounding Ak's name. When Ak heard that Nipsey disrespected him like that though, he responded calmly and told his side of the story, which is a pretty rare occurrence for someone like Ak. Anyway, he explained that their tension during the supposed walkout came from Nipsey not understanding how the show worked.
I don't know. Clearly, at first he said he was down to not talk. He don't want to talk about any other men. It's a debate show, bro. You can't come to a debate show. And again, I won't even fully blame him.
After blaming Nipsey and his PR team for not understanding how the show operated, that wasn't enough to calm the rapper down. Because in another interview, Nipsey explained why he didn't like the way DJ Akademiks was using his platform.
What happened? What was that thing? I saw an interview recently. It was
I already know what you're going to say.
Which one?
With Akademiks?
Yeah, Akademiks. What did he do this time? Everybody got some beef with Akademiks.
I don't got beef with dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to call a spade, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And one thing I get personally offended by.
He also elaborated how harmful Ak was for young up-and-coming rappers.
Bro, you got young kids that come from nothing, that change their family life, you know, that change their own life, that, you know, avoid death and jail through hip-hop. So I don't like people playing with it. You know what I'm saying?
But that wasn't the only reason Nip had issues with him. He later pointed to a moment where Ak mocked 21 Savage for saying he had stopped spending money on jewelry and was focusing on investing his money.
So when I hear somebody like, dude, you know, saying things like for example, they said recently that 21 Savage said that he stopped buying jewelry and that he gonna spend his money on investing. You know, that's a powerful message.
And in true Akademiks fashion, instead of giving 21 Savage props for promoting a positive message to his young and impressionable fans, he chose to criticize him, which only made Nip lose even more respect for him.
And Akademiks criticized him and said, I don't want to hear nothing but killing, and I'm about to kill the ops, and I don't want to hear that from 21 Savage. That shit right there get you fucked up.
That's coon talk. That's coon talk.
And we supposed to fuck up for that. Period.
He then said that Ak should have faced real world consequences for talking like that. And if it were up to him, he would have pulled up on him, even if it was Complex's office.
We ain't supposed to be understanding. We supposed to catch you at Complex Con or wherever you at, and we supposed to spank you for that. And you supposed to learn, I was wrong. We ain't supposed to do nothing you can't fix. We ain't supposed to take the overboard. We supposed to fuck you up for that.
And that's not all. Nip also aired him out on Twitter after Ak implied that he was being used by the rapper to drum up hype for his new album. Nip clapped back by saying, "We've been messing people up before we've been dropping albums. We're not going for underhanded disrespect or endorsed ignorance. No more. We push an aggressive intelligence, either you with it or you the ops." And as for Akademiks, well, he never responded to that and never even deleted his tweet. It was clear that he didn't want smoke with Nipsey Hussle of all people. However, Ak also did claim that before he passed, he and Nip talked it out. "We spoke on the phone, we gonna leave it like that. It's no more back and forth with the words. I gave him my word, he gave me his word. So I'd like to leave it at that." However, while Ak's stocks were continuing to skyrocket off the success of his podcast, his long list of beefs didn't stop there. See, in December of 2022, DJ Akademiks found himself caught in the middle of yet another beef, this time with the City Girls rapper Young Miami. This began when Young Miami's ex-boyfriend, Sean Diddy Combs, announced that he had a new child on the way, but the plot twist was that the child wasn't with Young Miami, despite their romantic relationship since 2021. You see, a lot of people were shocked when the diddler revealed that his mother was Dana Tran, a 28-year-old cybersecurity specialist from Southern California. The announcement blindsided many fans who were watching the evolution of Diddy and Young Miami's quote-unquote situationship, as just weeks before the announcement, the two were even seen celebrating Thanksgiving together, handing out thousands of meals to the homeless. On top of that, they were also seen together at Diddy's 53rd birthday party, where Miami gave him a diamond chain. And yet, here was Diddy with a brand new baby, born in October, with a woman no one had heard of. Now, you might be wondering, where did DJ Akademiks pop up in all of this? Well, in a not so shocking move, Akademiks just jumped into the conversation with one of his signature tweets, dripping in sarcasm, writing, "Diddy different. My guy done messed around and had a side baby on his harem of side chicks. Brother love a real one." And you know what? The tweet was all it took. While Ak might have felt like it was playful banter or commentary, Young Miami didn't see it that way at all. What followed was a series of tweets from Young Miami that turned the timeline into a battleground. She started off by clarifying, "I'm nobody's side girl, let's just make this clear on this good Monday. I don't come second to no one." However, she was far from done. She'd straight up check Akademiks. "Akademiks, my name ain't eggplant, so keep it out your mouth. You the type of guy my uncle doing life sentences for?" Then followed it up with more disses. "You sit your fat, scary in the house all day, talking online, come outside, police boy." Yep, you heard that right. She literally called him a booty boy. But even through all the insults, it was clear that Young Miami had been pushed to her limit. You see, she felt disrespected, and more importantly, she felt targeted. "It's cool for a man to constantly harass me online that I don't know. He did the same thing when my car got shut up. He laughed when I almost lost my life. Find somebody else to play with. I can react how the hell I want to." So, how do you think Ak reacted to all of this? Well, Ak being Ak, he was never really the type of person to sit on the sidelines when it came to drama. So of course, rather than apologizing, he doubled down, responding with misdirected anger. "Brother Love wouldn't approve this behavior. I ain't the one he had a side baby on, y'all. Relax." And if you didn't get it by now, Love is Diddy's nickname. However, he'd also tackled the issue seriously, writing, "Young Miami mad at me for pointing out the obvious. You said you and that guy go together real bad. That guy had another baby with another woman. You the side chick. Don't get mad now. At least you got hella gifts. Live your life, queen. Also, you tell us your business, lol, of course we're gonna comment." But it didn't take long for him to send shots again, and this time, he was insinuating that Young Miami was just having a mental breakdown online, stating, "Nick Cannon woman would never be having a mental breakdown the day he announced a new baby. I'm just saying, straighten up, y'all be knowing what y'all sign up for." To which Young Miami clapped back instantly. "I'm trying to figure out when I was mad or having a mental breakdown. I'm in La La Land with my feet up, smelling my flowers. Y'all mad. You the one screaming at your screen calling out my name, punk." And with all the chaos happening between the two, Ak looked like he had enough, as he replied, "I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm praying for your healing. Because right now, you sounded like someone who found out the news via TMZ, just like everybody else. I'll send my prayers. Love you, hun." However, just 2 years later, Young Miami would target Akademiks again. See, when Miami was having an altercation with a fan online, the fan used an Akademiks clip, and just like that, it reignited the anger that was hidden inside of her.
This is the hilarious part. She said failed because the dude quoted my video and he said, "You failed at everything," and she said failed. I got more money than both y'all.
And you know, Ak didn't back away from this.
You getting ran through basically because it got some bread. I don't give a f. P. Diddy himself.
See, Ak argued that there's no way Young Miami had more money than him. He added,
"We not talking about the money that Diddy doesn't give you to like, you know, f out of you. But stop playing." Again, I don't know if what type of blogger you think I am or what type of money you think bloggers is making, but.
On the other hand, he wasn't really moved by all the tough talk Miami was saying.
Alright, she says get in the field and shut the f up. Yo, Young Miami, you're a whole woman. Stop talking about getting in the field.
And just to add salt to the wound, Ak would constantly bring up her Diddy situation.
I said, when you're a nigga that been pissing in your face, I'm talking about Diddy. When you gonna respond, or when he gonna respond? Cause you been Diddy's side till now, and you ain't claiming no more where your sign at.
You see, it didn't really help Miami's case that she's been very vocal about her admiration for Diddy in the past.
Go Poppy, where your sign at now? You see, that's the problem with like you, man. The nigga who you been really getting paid to f.
But on top of that, Ak also warned Miami for speaking out too much, stating,
"You should be the most quietest person right now. And this is why you finna lose that goddamn freak off allowance, man. You gonna lose that freak off allowance. Because Diddy right now, that losing all his deals.
Unfortunately, even years later, it looked like Young Miami was still hurt by what happened. You see, when Miami appeared as a guest on the Club Shay Shay podcast, he aired out how Ak made their beef personal.
And it's all about how you speak on the topic. Like, you can say whatever you want to say about me, but you ain't got to call me a hoe. You could just say, like,
you did all that?
Yes.
She argued that she had no problem when critics like Akademiks trash her music because at the end of the day, it's part of their job as a blogger. However, she drew the line when it came to the safety of her child.
Right. But when it get personal, like, yeah, I'm so glad you got shit, and like my car got shit, and he like,
damn.
Yeah, like my car got shit when I was 6 months pregnant.
She added that Akademiks only made things worse when
he wrote the story, he was like, I thought you keep a baby clock with you. It's like, what's wrong with you? Like, I could have lost my life and my child.
But as we all know by now, Akademiks wasn't gonna let this slide. See, just days after the release of the interview, Ak took to the stream to analyze and rebut all the things Miami said after the podcast.
Then I spoke on your music, and then I spoke on the fact that you were choosing a relationship over your music, and yeah, I was speaking about things you're putting out there when you're.
In Ak's mind, he was just responding to things Miami was doing publicly, stating,
"Out there when you're saying that you like getting peed on, and we can't get a proper single from you. Yeah, I'm gonna speak that you look like and you come across like a prostitute. You come across like an escort."
It might have sounded personal for her. However, to everyone's surprise, the two actually communicated back then, according to Ak.
By the way, me and her DM'd. I told her whenever her show comes back or if it's going on, I'll come on it. It's a scheduled thing based on her. I'm good. I'm down to go sit with her.
But with the recent back and forth, it looked like Ak was done with the beef, stating,
"It's no need to keep going back and forth with Young Miami. I think Young Miami to me has, I was judging her as someone who I saw as a budding musician who had clear influence over upcoming women wanting to be in the game."
However, this wasn't the last time Akademiks beefed with a female rapper. In fact, while his beef with Young Miami was ongoing, a new challenger would step up to confront Ak. See, all of the tension started back in 2020 when Tory Lanez was accused of shooting Megan Thee Stallion in the foot after an argument following a party at Kylie Jenner's house. Back then, this immediately became one of the biggest scandals in rap since Meg publicly named Tory as her shooter just a few months later. So, in typical Akademiks fashion, he decided to swoop in and become a vocal commentator. I mean, that is his job. But it wasn't until 2022, during trial proceedings, that DJ Akademiks included himself in the situation. And you know what? Big Ak wasn't going to shy away from who he sided with. See, just hours before the court proceedings were set to begin, Akademiks claimed that Tory Lanez's DNA was not found on the weapon used in the shooting. In a now deleted tweet, he wrote, "Tory Lanez's trial still adjourned until April with Tory's lawyer, telling the court they have completed DNA results from the prosecution, which is very pleasing to his client. I saw this doc myself. It literally says it was inconclusive in finding Tory DNA on the gun or magazine. Now one of y'all finna tell me my eyes deceived me. I ain't Trasha K. Stop playing with me." However, Tory Lanez's lawyer argued that no one in their camp had leaked this information to DJ Akademiks. So how did Ak get this info? Well, according to him, I got it from Roc Nation. Unfortunately, for Megan, this info spread like wildfire on social media, which also convinced a lot of fans to side with Tory. At first, Meg took it easy, writing, "I know some of y'all blogs on payroll, but please don't get sued trying to create a hate campaign. Be a real journalist and post facts, and to my haters, keep making yourself look stupid." However, on her next post, she decided to tag Akademiks to check him directly, stating, "Y'all got breaking news 15 minutes before court started and no one has even been called in yet. Y'all trying to win a social media campaign. This is my life. Y'all trying to get retweets spreading false narratives. At I am Akademiks, why are you lying? What did you gain?" The part of Meg's problem was that the claim came from someone who is not an attorney or even involved with legal proceedings. On the other hand, Meg also stated that the claims are basically baseless, writing, "What's even more messed up is that this stuff is all on public record and no one even cares to read. Only thing that happened in court today was it got pushed back to April 5th, but y'all will get a lie trending. Imagine how I feel, reliving this stuff every day publicly. It hurts. I'm so tired." And while Tory tried to save his image, Meg also had something to say to him. See, on top of checking Akademiks, she also posted screenshots of a text conversation between her and Tory where Tory claimed that he was just drunk, captioning it, "If you ain't do stuff, why you ain't apologizing? The lawyers got your phone recordings and all mine, all your texts," which only implied that DJ Akademiks was deliberately misinforming the public to favor Tory Lanez and discredit her. But Akademiks, being who he is, doubled down, writing, "Meg gotta call the DA and ask him if it's true. I don't know why she up on here tagging me in the post like I be making stuff up." In fact, he tagged Meg as well, writing, "At the Stallion, I don't give a what you got with Tory. Y'all can play y'all PR games. We know what you and Roc Nation is doing. I don't care. Just don't try and bring my brand in there. You literally a peon in the game. 1501 owns you and you beg them every time to drop a song." And just like that, Ak started a brand new feud. And unlike other celebrity dramas that quietly fade, this one kept on escalating. See, Akademiks didn't just stop at Twitter. In fact, he'd even do a deep dive on all the updates on the case on his stream. Unfortunately, it looked like Megan Thee Stallion had no idea what kind of storm she was about to get when she attacked DJ Akademiks.
You came at Big Ak. I don't forget, I remember, and I'm petty goddamn man calling me out like that. Is this chick stupid?
You see, when she attacked Ak, he didn't just want to defend himself, he also wanted to embarrass her as revenge. See, in Ak's head, if he was able to survive a feud with the queen of rap, Nicki Minaj beefing with Megan would be light work for him.
Stand my ground against the Barbs. This gonna be a 4-0 sweep. I promise y'all.
So, from the moment the stream started, Akademiks made it personal. He didn't hold back, mocking Megan's career, talent, and image.
You can't rap like you barely could rap. You've been declining since you came in. Everybody calls you a drunk alcoholic. Everybody been saying you just running around from rapper to rapper. Like, I ain't mean, stay saying that. I'm sorry.
However, the shots didn't stop there. He moved on from her behavior to her music, stating,
So Meg, get your bars up. All that twerking. We don't give a about you twerking no more. Put out a hot song. Can't wait to on the rest of your songs when they come out.
But other than the countless harsh attacks, Akademiks would also analyze the case on stream.
So number one, the bullet fragments from Meg's leg can be located. Okay.
See, at the time, a lot of information was still hidden. However, a lot of people speculated that Meg was fighting not just with Tory, but with her ex-best friend, Kelsey Harris.
You see, Meg, before you start talking about you got you have to tell why you were arguing with your best friend. But you don't want to tell why you were arguing with your best friend, because it's what Tory just said. He was getting y'all both down.
And as Ak read through the articles, he talked about an independent witness who had told the cops they saw Meg and their friend fighting just moments before Meg was allegedly hit.
These are evidence that's coming out. This is evidence that's coming out. They didn't say that Meg was fighting with Tory. They said Meg was fighting with her friend.
On top of that, during a preliminary hearing, the independent witness also claimed that the gun muzzle, which was likely the mini flash from the gun's explosion, went off closer to Kelsey than Tory.
Independent witness claims they saw a go off, but it was closer to the best friend, not Tory.
See, all this info just added fuel to the likes of Akademiks, which clearly sided with Tory.
So a witness says it was somebody, the muzzle went off by somebody else. DNA can't prove that Tory had it, but Meg says it's Tory. But then Meg says her back was turned. Think about this.
And according to Ak, none of this would have happened if Meg just kept her mouth shut, stating,
Meg's the only one saying Tory did it, but Meg also, because she can't shut the up, my back was turned. Why the did you have to say that? Yo, the prosecutor's probably like, oh my God.
See, at that point, it was almost impossible to deny that Ak was really standing with Tory. In fact, he'd even set up an interview with a rapper before the judge's verdict on the case. In the interview, you can even see Ak kind of like fanboying over Tory.
And I remember listening to, again, I'm telling you, man, I love that album, man. I remember listening to the album and you're calling out a few people for moving a little bit different on you now.
And with all the chaos going around, Ak still gave Tory a platform to speak.
Whatever Fallouts, which is, I think that's a phenomenal song.
Thank you.
That's an artist, that's a person, that's a human whose back's against the ropes, and you could tell they're jumping him.
But unfortunately for Ak though, it looked like he was fighting a losing battle. You see, by the end of 2022, the Tory Lanez trial reached its verdict. Lanez was found guilty on all 3 counts, including assault with a semi-automatic firearm, as the jury sided with Megan.
A jury has convicted Tory Lanez of all 3 charges for the 2020 Meg Thee Stallion. A crazy and downright scary scene in the courtroom as his father and stepmother screamed about wicked injustice.
However, during the stream, Ak had a calmer demeanor as he read through the news, and it seemed like he felt defeated.
Oh, she lied before about this, that, and third. The jury found her credible enough to say, we're gonna side with her.
On top of that, he doubled down and say,
did I think it was gonna be a different outcome? Yes. Definitely thought it was gonna be a different outcome. You get what I mean?
On the other hand, the real loser of this beef was still Tory. See, just a few months after the guilty verdict, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And as Akademiks reacted to the news, he surprisingly said,
hey, I have nothing bad to say about Meg. Like, Meg was a victim. Let me tell you this. Bro, in this case, people said it, like people who've been through some real shit. And I've talked to some people who've been through some real shit.
Megan, for her part, had gone mostly quiet post-trial. She didn't publicly respond to Akademiks anymore, but unfortunately the damage had already been done. But was Akademiks really done with dissing Megan? Because even as recently as November last year, it looked like Ak was still speaking ill of her name. You see, at the time, Ak was pushing the narrative that Meg was for the streets.
The street about Meg is she everybody. Give her 2 cups of Henny, she's sucking wild.
On the other hand, Akademiks was starting to get tired of all the female rappers who would claim to be just like Sexy Red.
Red told y'all she's a who love STDs and niggas with ankle monitors.
However, as Ak continued to talk about Meg, it started getting more and more disrespectful. See, now he was even involving other rappers.
Baby was beating down your guts the night before you got Tory was in it 2 days before that.
On top of that, he'd even claimed that Meg had other issues, stating,
she was an alcoholic. You was a woman who used to drink, blackout, get drunk, fuck whoever, and then used to be very belligerent and used to be very aggressive.
If you think that Ak was done, well, his statements kept on getting wilder and wilder.
People didn't enjoy your presence. They enjoyed you. But after they fucked you the first time, they would just tell their other homie, it's easy to fuck her.
In fact, Akademiks would also claim that it would be hard for Meg to find a husband.
Tory was fucking with you heavy. He rocked with you. Why Tory never wifed you? You know why Tory never wifed you? Because Tory don't want to look like a clown.
However, it wasn't just women in hip-hop who Akademiks was beefing with. Of course, Ak had become one of the biggest hip-hop media personalities of this era, but just like hip-hop, he didn't always extend the same respect to others in the media game. You see, when Joe Budden's negotiations with Complex fell through, he returned to his podcasting roots, shifting his focus to the Joe Budden podcast alongside his hosts Rory and Mal. But while Joe had a relatively friendly relationship with DJ Akademiks by his own standards, his co-hosts didn't exactly feel the same way, leading to the duo sending subs towards DJ Akademiks at every opportunity possible. When discussing the coverage of street rappers and the many hip-hop artists who tragically lost their lives to street violence, Joe and his co-host had this to say.
I'm real tired of seeing the streets on the internet, and I'm real tired of seeing the internet on the streets.
Right.
Anytime I see either of the two, it looks really, really funny and it's really, really annoying.
Rory chimed in on the conversation and added,
I'll be honest with you, I was a little disgusted at some of the media outlets and people that were saying rest in peace, and to the people that think I'm talking about Akademiks, I am, but not just him.
By that point, Rory had already name-dropped DJ Akademiks, so it was fairly obvious that they were talking about him.
Ak got the nerve to be exploiting the nigga even in death.
He's not the only one. Don't do your coverage to instigate the and then say rest in peace when it finishes. It's offensive.
He doubled down, emphasizing how harmful it was for hip-hop as a whole when internet culture intertwined with real street activity, as well as its crimes, victims, and the backlash that followed.
It's that whole internet culture of these kids that have nothing, they're desperate. The only way I could get on, 6ix9ine for example, has nothing. Only way he'd get on is do that. I'm gonna go do that, because this is what's been set up by the gatekeepers, if you will.
And if it wasn't clear that Rory was referring to Ak, what he said next definitely fits him best.
It's an awful process. People die over it because of people in their basements setting a standard for popularity.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't let none of you set any standards for me. Yeah, Ak got the nerve to be on the show talking about, yeah, and it's really bothersome because him and we had a bit of a falling out recently.
Mal also gave his 2 cents about the whole situation while dissing DJ Akademiks.
This is the problem I have.
What?
But and then see when I say people, I'm hating and I'm all of this, but it's because
if this is hating, call me a hater.
These certain dudes that they are giving these platforms to, it's like y'all they're bozos. Like Akademiks is a bozo.
After calling him a bozo and questioning whether he should even have a platform, it was clear Ak wasn't going to let that type of disrespect slide. So, not long after, Ak went live to address his tension with both Rory and Mal. When it came to Rory's specific hate towards him, he said,
his comments about me, my platform, things I've done, things I was doing, including even Twitch, were always negative in nature.
And then continued to pile on the two, saying that they took an easy road, becoming a talking head in hip-hop, and that they never experienced the same hardships he had to go through.
You see, they've had the luxury of getting carried their whole career. They've never had to fight and dig through the mud.
And when presented the chance to reconcile with them, here's what Ak reacted.
Rory, I hope you, I ain't even gonna lie to you, I'm down to bury the hatchet with this nigga. He doesn't have to apologize to me. Just sincerely apologize to me for all the and being a fucking he is.
However, this beef was about to get dark real fast, because Rory allegedly knew where Ak lived and decided to pull up to his house, leaving a threatening letter addressed to Ak.
Well, I might have to just slap him real quick for coming to the crib. That's out of pocket. You tweaking for that.
After learning that they drove to his house, Ak showed no mercy as he also let Mal have a peace of mind.
You and Mealy Mal, that's Jay-Z's he probably got a little trust fund here or there. Cool for that, but listen, other than, swinging like Tarzan from nutsack to nutsack, that garbage.
Ak even roasted their talent as Joe's co-host.
Listen, we don't want to hear you regurgitate Joe's takes no more. But cool, it has made you into a C or D mic on Joe's podcast. Don't think you the boss.
And for someone like Ak, who had to work hard to get where he was right now, he had a particular disdain for Mal, given the fact he had connections to Jay-Z through his brother, who was a friend of Hope.
You're a fucking loser. Who your claim to fame was fucking shimmying and fucking twirling a fucking cane in college. You got with some niggas and started throwing some parties, which was day parties, which niggas was doing, and cause y'all had some Rock Nation connects, again, your whole fucking career been babied by the connection.
He reiterated how babied they were and how they were never gonna face the type of struggle like Ak did over the years.
Y'all niggas never got it out the mud. So when a nigga like me come around, y'all niggas should be real quiet.
Then he continued to belittle them.
So when niggas like you start talking about shit that you don't know, I'm gonna violate you.
Moreover, Ak was relentless when it came to letting them know that without Joe Budden, they'd be nothing according to him.
Like them. Because here's the thing. I always said this, and this went into my whole soliloquy about why these dudes were irrelevant. I said, if Joe Budden gets on camera, but by the way, let me just start off. Rip. These dudes have never proved their worth without Joe Budden not sitting next to him.
He also said that they bring nothing to the table when it comes to the Joe Budden podcast, despite making a career off his name.
Great. But then you look at what the Joe Budden podcast is. These dudes became just names off of Joe Budden literally having an audience and continuing and building what he got going on. They brought nothing to the table.
And while he was still beefing with Rory and Mal, Ak didn't let it slow him down, as he was already in talks with Spotify to launch a podcast, which eventually came to life with the debut of Off the Record with DJ Akademiks in August of 2021. But even with his success, Ak let them know that he would dedicate his whole career towards destroying Rory and Mal's.
On his birthday. It's been my life mission to destroy you niggas since you pulled up to my crib. My life mission. See what you got, you fucking bum.
While Ak's stocks were continuing to grow, the same couldn't be said for his two ops, especially once news broke out that Joe Budden just fired them live on air.
Who cares? Hey, I don't want to hear that friend shit no more.
No doubt.
I don't want to hear that everybody ops.
But it's a perk.
Everybody ops.
That's a perk.
Everybody ops. Anybody want. It's on everybody top. I don't want to hear friends no more. I got a few of them, not a lot. Hey, how I view friendship and how other niggas view friendship is very different.
When Joe's anger was starting to direct towards the two, Ak couldn't help but smile, especially after Joe said this.
He still feels like he has choices and options. He feels like he's entitled to more.
Here we go.
Rory, you are in breach of your contract, and from this point forward, you are fired.
But hearing a clip of Joe firing them wasn't enough for Ak. See, he wanted to revel in their tragic news by replaying this clip.
I'm gonna do this, since Rory feels like he has so many options here. Somehow he still feels like he's running the show. He still feels like he has choices and options. He feels like he's entitled to more.
Once the dust got settled, Rory and Mal began to claw their way out of Joe's shadow and reportedly signed a $10 million deal with Stitcher, a media company owned by SiriusXM. And as you can imagine, their biggest hater, DJ Akademiks, didn't exactly savor their victory, not even for a moment. In an interview on No Jumper, when the topic was brought up by Adam,
I'm giving you the facts.
But do you think that they got $10 million?
Ak quickly clapped back by downplaying their deal.
If they got 10 million, I got 30. So let me tell you how the game is played. And you know, you haven't done the deal with like, you know, an exclusive podcast network. By the way, you could definitely do. You got some good stuff going on.
However, his sentiment only came back as bitter in the eyes of fans, who wrote, Ak is moving the goalpost. He said their careers were over and that they needed Joe. He was dead wrong. So in that respect, yes, you are shitting on him. However, Ak's issues with other hip-hop talking heads didn't stop there, because there's also a time his friendship with 6ix9ine drove a wedge between him and one of hip-hop's most OG radio stations. Did you know that long before the infamous 6ix9ine blew up in the music industry with his breakout hit Gummo, he had already formed a friendship with DJ Akademiks behind the scenes? And if you didn't know about their relationship, it's because Ak has gotten a lot of scrutiny because of how biased he is when it comes to covering his friends' many controversies. After all, it's hard to detach yourself from 6ix9ine's infamy when you're spotted broadcasting your hangouts via Instagram Live.
And hey yo, hold on, let me talk to live.
Hold on, let them see we got no security.
Bruh. Let them see that.
Cause I'll be rolling.
Wait.
I'll be rolling with 300,000 on my neck, right? 300,000, no security.
Anyhow, this sparked backlash from several hip-hop commentators, including Ebro and Peter Rosenberg from Hot 97, who called out the way Akademiks had been conducting himself around 6ix9ine and the stories tied to his name.
The biggest congratulations, you played yourself to DJ Akademiks. You know him.
Maybe you don't. Maybe you're not on the internets and Twitch and all the little video game weirdos and the internet weirdos streaming.
However, Ebro did compliment him building a name for himself after branding his method, while also giving flack for his questionable ties to the controversial rapper.
Big on the internet, this DJ Akademiks guy. Well, somehow he's gotten looped into being the promotional vehicle for Tekashi 6ix9ine.
But why were Ebro and Rosenberg lecturing Ak in the first place? Well, it's apparently because he and 6ix9ine staged a breaking news segment that 6ix9ine was arrested by the NYPD while filming a music video.
Who yesterday everybody's like, oh, Tekashi got arrested by the NYPD during his video shoot. And now he's back out on the street. They can't stop him. Y'all really need to calm down. Y'all living in a dream world. And Akademiks, you lying on behalf of Tekashi 6ix9ine, guess what?
Congratulations, you played yourself.
While you could just say this was for marketing purposes, Peter Rosenberg chimed in and added that
NYPD came out and said that's not true. We did not arrest him at no point. And also, I said this yesterday about Akademiks. He has made himself, to his credit, you know, he used the internet to become one of the biggest voices in hip-hop, one of the biggest new voices in hip-hop.
Shortly after giving him credit, Rosenberg gave Ak some advice and told him that his strategy of tying himself to someone like 6ix9ine was a really bad idea.
You decide to hitch yourself to one specific artist instead of just doing your job and talking about everything. You want to just hit yourself to one team and become the PR arm for one artist.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
And if that was enough, Ebro spoke out once again, trying to stun Ak.
Don't tie yourself to these artists, bro. Just gotta be patient. Just got to be patient. You're gonna lose your credibility if it hasn't been lost already. And especially you standing next to something like that that's
got so much potential heat around it.
But here's the thing. Ak later corrected the news and said that 6ix9ine wasn't in fact arrested a couple of hours later, which led to fans clowning on the host, writing, Ebro is a clout-chasing bum. He literally ignores the fact that Ak literally uploads a correction saying 6ix9ine wasn't arrested, LMAO, as well as congratulations, you played yourselves. Of course, knowing Akademiks, he wasn't going to take this slander lightly. Even with it coming from a hip-hop veteran like Ebro, who's been in the game for over 20 years, Ak didn't hesitate to clap back.
I saw Hot 97 and their show decided to make a huge deal about me saying Tekashi was arrested at his video shoot.
He also said that 6ix9ine would never have to go to any 6ix9ine video shoot for obvious reasons.
I'm sorry, as I've told Tekashi before when I went in studio with him, I said, Tekashi, I have $1 million company. I don't know if you've made $1 million yet, but I'm doing really well. Okay? I would not risk and jeopardize what I have for Tekashi 6ix9ine.
When he was finished explaining the misconception and confusing news about whether or not 6ix9ine was really booked by authorities, he then addressed the host of Hot 97, who had a lot of things to say about him on air.
Ebro and whoever else is in his cohort, because, and I could tell, and Ebro, you don't have to, I don't know if he's listened to this personally ever, you don't like Tekashi, I get it. He's a younger dude, he's from New York, you might not even like the energy, I get it. You go on your morning show the day after. I put out the video at least 9 hours before.
He followed it up by adding,
which shows me you're only looking at, and this is probably this is one of the problems with you mainstream media people. You go on your morning show in the morning after I'd done a story about 9-10 hours before, and I explained it all.
Ak then called him out for ignoring all his recent tweets, clarifying the situation regarding 6ix9ine, and that they were only nitpicking a single tweet to paint him in a bad light.
You went off one tweet. The tweet you went off is the tweet of mine that actually said he was arrested. You ignored all the tweets that were follow-ups to say he wasn't arrested. You ignored all the other videos and whatever else I did on Instagram to say he wasn't arrested. You made a whole thing about it. You turned it into my warning or whatever to Tekashi and Akademiks. Again, it was clearly clickbait.
He later added that Hot 97 hadn't been doing so well lately and pointed out a clear disconnect between the newer generation and legacy radio stations like theirs, calling them out for being hypocrites.
These media organizations who don't with the new wave, they'll just use them as clickbait. All of a sudden, the next 2 days, they have a video talking about Lil Yachty is a better rapper than Tekashi.
However, Ak wasn't finished because he felt disrespected that they were hesitant when it came to giving him credit for his platform and what he achieved.
And by the way, notice how anyone in the mainstream media gives me credit. It's like they don't want to give me credit. It's like, well, he kind of built up a little fan base, a little following. Yeah, give it up.
He also clapped back at them by saying they were all simply jealous of what he was able to accomplish.
The Ebros and the Rosenbergs hate my position in the culture because Ebro used to be the place that you needed to go to get relevance in hip-hop.
He also claimed that this is where their hate towards him stemmed from.
I think he resents me for that. He said, I was paid by powerful people to make 6ix9ine happen. Little boy, stop playing with me. I was making $150,000 every month.
But anyways, due to how goofy and polarizing Akademiks is, some rappers think of him as an easy target. And that's what happened after Lil Baby dissed Akademiks out of nowhere. However, his beef with Akademiks didn't come out of nowhere, literally. It actually started quite early on. See, Akademiks was always a vocal critic of Lil Baby and his music, so he made sure to voice out his opinions. And at the time, it wasn't just Ak who had harsh criticism for the Atlanta rapper. In fact, a lot of people were starting to say Lil Baby was falling off. His music wasn't connecting the way it used to, and the numbers showed it. Streams were down, buzz was fading, and things hit a low point when he had to cancel several tour dates because of poor ticket sales. He tried to save his career by releasing an album titled It's Only Me back in 2022, but as you can probably guess, fans didn't particularly enjoy listening to it, with some writing harsh reviews about the album, such as, Lil Baby's output has been on a downward spiral for some time now, and this album isn't good enough to redeem how low effort and phoned in his work has been since my turn. It's not a bad album, but at this point, Lil Baby isn't interesting enough for me to enjoy a 20+ track project. So it's no secret that he was in a musical slump. However, we're not just going to talk about how bad or underwhelming the album is. See, Lil Baby actually dissed Akademiks on 2 songs. The first diss was on Top Priority, where he rapped, "All cap aside, who really has turned us? Akademiks got guys thinking they can't get touched." The second was on From Now On, where Lil Baby explicitly said, "Akademiks know he ain't as rich as me." So how did Ak respond? Well, he replied by saying that Lil Baby had nothing else to rap about on stream, saying,
"You clearly don't got nothing to rap about. If you in the streets as you claim you are, Akademiks know they ain't rich as me." Well, by the way, I'll also comment on that. I never said I was rich as Lil Baby. I said I'm definitely holding more than most of these rappers.
He reiterated that he didn't claim to be as rich as Lil Baby himself.
But Baby's one of the top 5 rappers. I've always said he's one of my favorite rappers. So I have zero idea why he's talking about that.
But of course, Lil Baby knew that. But this wasn't the start of their feud. See, Lil Baby had already blocked Ak on social media after the album's release, which Ak brought up on stream, explaining what had happened.
Lil Baby blocked me because one day I said there's a rapper named Lil something. I won't tell you who it is. That's why I said on my stream. Young boy would collab with, but he won't collab with that because he's beefing with his friend.
After Ak explained that Lil Baby blocked him over a misunderstanding, he finally opened up about how he really felt about being dissed.
Also, don't get mad at me. You dropped 2 mid-singles before your album. I ain't gonna lie, people say your album sounded good. But nigga dropped that Detox trash and then the Hey trash. That ain't on me. That's on you.
And sit tight because Ak's just getting started.
You start thinking you bigger than what you could be. This is supposed to be a Wayne Carter 3 moment. Except you not coming in with a milli, nigga. You dropped, you could have f***ed up and dropped the biggest hit like a couple months ago. In the last 2 months, everybody was saying, how is he announcing the album then dropping trash?
He also told everyone watching live the contents of the text Lil Baby sent to him before blocking him.
This is what he said. March 13, 2021. You gotta stop putting out lies, Lil Bro. Boy, you been in the rap for like 4 years. You must think you the king of something. You must think that you can't get... I've seen niggas like you come and go.
Ak stated how confused he was at Lil Baby's message.
This is what he said. March 13, 2021. You gotta stop putting out lies, Lil Bro. Boy, you been in the rap for like 4 years. You must think you the king of something. You must think that you can't get... I've seen niggas like you come and go.
He also made fun of the Atlanta rapper for blocking him and getting fooled by the YouTube clickbait posts.
You block me on one page like a girl, then you message me on my personal page, and you're talking about YouTube uploads by fans. Why are you spreading lies on me, Lil Bro?
So what did Lil Baby do after being completely clowned on by Akademiks? Well, he addressed their feud in an interview with The Breakfast Club when DJ Envy brought it up.
You had a couple of shots at Akademiks on the album.
It was only
2.
One.
I thought it was on 2 songs. I thought it was a song with Future and on the Turning Point record, right?
Lil Baby tried to backtrack and reiterate that he wasn't dissing Akademiks on the song.
Niggas think they can't get touched. Meaning somebody who be on the computer all day.
Got you.
It wasn't really
trolling. It wasn't at him. He just used him as an example.
Yeah.
But Baby later claimed that he felt some type of way after Ak allegedly called other rappers out for being broke and faking their lifestyle.
But I seen another interview. He like rappers broke. They lease their cars.
You said Ak, you ain't got more money than me.
Stop, man, bro. Come on.
I never thought about that. I never in my mind did I even think to compare y'all financially.
After Lil Baby cleared the air up regarding their quote-unquote beef, that should have been the end of it, right? Well, not exactly. because DJ Akademiks didn't hold back and even challenged the rapper to a fight.
Stop it. No, y'all keep talking because y'all talking bullshit. I will fight Lil Baby for free or for money. I just want to get in the ring with him. No, you don't got no 4 PF. I will choke you to death.
And if that wasn't enough, he later gave him some advice on how to revive his career, writing, "I got the remedy for Lil Baby. Stay far away from Michael Rubin, or keep it off camera. The optics don't look right. The internet making it sound like you want some get out stuff. It's ruining the facade needed for fickle rap fans to buy into music." If you don't know who Michael Rubin is, he's a billionaire who famously hosts the white parties that invites the upper echelon of celebrities, such as Drake, Travis Scott, Lil Wayne, and of course, Lil Baby. But that wasn't all Ak had to say. He also told him to go on a crazy feature run and to delete all his awful music from YouTube. And over the years, instead of mellowing out his vendetta against him, Ak went even harder. You see, when a rapper goes after DJ Akademiks, he makes sure to retaliate with the same energy. So when Lil Baby previewed a snippet of a new song, you can bet that Ak was there to let him know that the song was buns.
But really, what I wanted to talk about, and this has to be studied, we have never seen artists fall from grace or just seem so much out of touch than Lil Baby. Lil Baby released another snippet of him supposedly previewing a new song, and let me tell you this, man, I don't care how many fire emojis, 100 emojis, bullseye emojis you put on it, it still don't make people think differently.
From Lil Baby's perspective, Ak definitely came off as his biggest hater. And the thing is, when regular hip-hop fans hear takes like that from one of the game's most influential talking heads, they're bound to echo those same sentiments.
This song might have went, it probably just went, this sound like the other one and the other one and the other one and the other one and the other one. What is this guy doing? Yo, who's in the studio with Lil Baby these days, bro?
Moreover, Ak wasted no time bringing up the comments to clown him even more.
There was 5,000 comments, or 4,226, of people just saying, yo, Baby, bro, like, what the f happened? Look at these comments. Yo, man, it ain't moving me. Sound like the same songs he been making. Man, he made 30 times in 2020.
And if that wasn't enough, he proceeded to read more hate comments calling Lil Baby out.
Somebody says, sounds like the last 20 songs. Somebody said, bro, I just need to make amends with Gunna. Somebody says, yo, talk like he Scooby-Doo with auto-tune. Somebody said, good God, this sucked. By the way, I'm reading this in sequence. None of these niggas gonna tell him either. Yo, he's surrounded by so many yes men.
And while the two kept butting heads on social media, their careers ended up going in complete opposite directions. Because years later, DJ Akademiks went on to be named the third most powerful streamer in hip-hop by Complex, while Lil Baby continued to release lackluster songs and underwhelming projects. And that's when, out of nowhere, in 2024, Ak called out Lil Baby for appearing to have nail polish in one of his music videos, writing, "This guy hasn't been the same since the Michael Rubin parties. I know his nail's not painted. Man, what's going on in rap?" As expected, Lil Baby clapped back at Akademiks in an Instagram story with the caption, "Y'all blogs gotta stop posting anything. I ain't paint my nails. At this point, y'all gotta see guys like Akademiks got an agenda. Miss me with that weirdo stuff, lol." After reading the Atlanta rapper's claims that he had a personal agenda against him, Ak fired back by clowning him and posting this, "The day we lost Lil Baby." But what happens when Lil Baby finally gets out of his slump and starts doing solid numbers? Does DJ Akademiks give him his due credit?
Lil Baby sold 140,000 records first week. Let me see if I can show you guys that. Which I think is solid. That's definitely a solid showing. I think if it was too close to 100, if it was 93, if it was anything below 100, big problem. If it was a little bit over 100, I think people would be like, yo, it's kind of weak.
Well, if it was any other person, they might, but remember, this is Akademiks. So after complimenting his 140K first week sales for the Wham album, Ak didn't even give credit to him. Instead, he gave all the props to his record label.
By the way, his album, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, his label is fucking amazing, right? His label did an amazing job.
And finally, what happens when an up-and-coming hip-hop journalist operates in the same lane as Akademiks? Well, they started to butt heads. See, the beef between Domis Live and DJ Akademiks was one of the earliest and only rivalries in the YouTube hip-hop space. Both creators were known for covering rap news and drama. However, one post quickly turned them from competition into immediate disrespect. So let's take it all the way back, because the tension didn't start out of nowhere. In fact, it had been simmering for years since Domis Live had been constantly accused of copying DJ Akademiks' content. See, Ak's channel at the time was popular due to the War and Chirac series and daily hip hop news, and many people believed that Dom was imitating his style, even though he believed that he was simply doing his own thing. However, the beef started to boil over during the 6ix9ine saga. See, Ak had a very close relationship with 6ix9ine, often providing him with a platform and covering his controversies non-stop. The thing is, as we all know, 6ix9ine isn't exactly the most likable rapper. You see, Dom and 6ix9ine might have been friends at first, but things started to get complicated when Dom decided to post about getting his chain snatched, which 6ix9ine angrily denied. And just like that, their friendship turned into war.
I believe that today he sent his pit bull after me, and that's 6ix9ine. And he did that so he could sit back and watch him try to destroy me.
See, Dom actually felt betrayed.
I thought 6ix9ine was my guy, but I wish I would have listened to a lot of other people that were saying, yo, Dom, you got to be careful with this dude. You got to understand, he's friends with Akademiks, which is someone that sees you as a threat. You got to be careful.
Luckily for Dom, he said that
I never fully allowed him to use me because I stood my 2 feet on everything that I did. And that's what he's upset about.
And as 6ix9ine threatened him to delete the post or even rename the post, Dom was already clouded with the idea that 6ix9ine wanted to control him.
Wanted to control me. And I never used to believe in none of that Illuminati stuff. Like when I would X talk about it, I'm like, I don't really believe in that X. But now I realize when someone can't control you, you gotta go.
On the other hand, Domis Live was also critical of Akademiks' involvement, accusing him of being biased and profiting off the rapper's reckless behavior. At one point, Dom even suggested that Akademiks might have been acting as a government informant. Akademiks in turn dismissed Domis Live as a jealous rival who had failed to remain relevant. See, he was confused about being dragged into the mess.
The nigga just started calling me out of my name after he was inspired by and influenced by me. It was this ultimate slap in the face. Like, I just couldn't understand.
Akademiks claimed that he didn't even want to respond to Dom.
Without even knowing, and this is why, you know what I mean, I don't really want to get back into this back and forth with homie. He's not, bro, he's just not saying facts anymore, man. Like, when he was sticking to facts and when we had a conversation, and he's too scared to get on here and speak to me again.
Even though he did rant about him for minutes. However, Ak claimed that he didn't even know that Dom and Tekashi were beefing, stating,
The thing is this, I don't know what him and 6ix9ine got going on, bro. Like, I don't know. Okay, if I had to guess, because I spoke to 6ix9ine yesterday, he called me and he says, Ak, why the fuck keep saying my chain got snatched?
But since his name was already mentioned, he might as well throw some jabs in there.
Talking to 6ix9ine, and 6ix9ine had family issues going on, and he felt that homie was trying to exploit his family issues for YouTube revenue.
Now at this point, it kind of felt like they were just playing a tug of war on who 6ix9ine loved more. However, another massive problem regarding 6ix9ine was about to surface, and this time, the two hip-hop commentators would clash about the shocking news. See, the beef caught fire when Trippie Redd rated 6ix9ine's new album at the time, Day 6ix9ine, and the issue was that Trippie didn't like the album. You see, he decided to expose 6ix9ine for stealing his ideas, and on top of that, he later accused 6ix9ine of a much bigger issue.
Like, the dude is not creative, everybody writes his shit.
As we all know, ghostwriting is a massive sin in hip-hop. So what did Akademiks do? Well, he initially tried to defend 6ix9ine, which didn't really sit well with Domis Live.
Listen, your career and you as a rapper is beginning to be painted as a hater, okay?
See, in Dom's perspective, Ak was being biased and protecting 6ix9ine since they were close friends. And the two content creators would soon go toe-to-toe when Ak called up Dom live on stream. So when they finally got a chance to speak to each other, they started to air out their true feelings for each other. And not in a romantic kind of way, at least. You see, Dom was tired of Ak sending sneak disses, stating,
Where's this coming from?
First off, for the longest time, you've been taking shots at all of us, bro. You've been calling us copycats, this and that, bro. I just do my thing. I just want to entertain people, but you're sitting there, you're raining down on all of the hip-hop commentators.
However, Ak kept on insisting that creators like Dom stole his ideas.
Looking up to, did you guys, wait, this is a direct question. Did you guys not see what I was doing, right? And then said, hey, I could do some variation of that. I don't care if it's a direct thing or it's some variation of that.
And there was some truth to that. See, even Dom couldn't deny the influence Ak had at the time. However, he also pointed out that Ak wasn't the only person who inspired him.
Charlemagne, Ebro, and I'm sure, let me ask you this though. When you started doing hip hop, did you have any inspiration from other people on YouTube that was doing it before you, covering hip hop? Because there was people that came before you, and I never see you shout those people out.
But of course, Ak would rebut those claims, saying,
What I was saying about trailblazing and creating.
Let me ask you this.
Wait, no, hold on. I'm answering the question. This is what I'm saying about trailblazing and creating a lane that wasn't there.
Now, at this point, things were starting to get a little heated between the two.
Format is GIFs. Okay, there's people that
No,
was covering hip hop
that's part.
before you.
Hold on.
They didn't use GIFs though. They used video.
Bro,
they used
are you fucking stupid, bro? You're saying the same thing I just said. I already said that I didn't invent hip hop commentary. Are you stupid? I just said that.
What I'm
I
saying
said
is-
that, right?
So what I'm saying
I didn't invent I never claimed to invent hip hop commentary.
See, initially, Ak was just talking about Dom being inspired by his work, but now he's straight up calling him out.
To the next point, right? Why are you so obsessed with me? Because I don't give a f about you. I gotta keep it 100.
However, Dom would argue that Ak was just the same, stating,
First off, no one's obsessed with you. Listen, you've been obsessed with us because every time you get on Twitch, you're sneak dissing all the hip hop commentators, and your fans know it. They're constantly mentioning my name whenever you're talking about somebody.
At that point, the tension just kept on rising. In fact, we haven't even gotten to the main event yet. You see, Dom's main issue with Akademiks at the time was that he was accusing Ak of being biased and protecting 6ix9ine's image. However, at some point during the call, all hell broke loose.
Dom, you're fucking garbage. And no, hold on. No, nigga, no. I'm answering to you. I'm answering to you. You're fucking garbage. You have no, like, bulletproof facts, but I'll give you a point because I'm fair.
And one of Ak's infamous lines, he said,
Dom, you're my son. If this nigga goes to jail, you're my son. If Tekashi goes to jail, does something good, bad, anything, I get money from it. So if he has a ghostwriter, I could spin that for the next week.
But according to him, he was only calling Dom his son because
the reason why I'm saying you're my son, because you can't fully prove something.
See, he kept asking for receipts.
Dom, do you have proof? Do you have proof? Do you have proof that he did? If you have proof, give it, bro. Give it. You talking a lot of shit. Yo, Dom, you're the, hold on. No. You don't have proof. I'm cutting you off right now. You have no proof. Dom, they can't even hear you.
And at that point, he didn't care if he was being disrespectful.
Shut the fuck up. Yo, Dom, you have no facts tonight. You came here with no fucking facts.
However, Ak also claimed that Dom was only going at him because of jealousy.
No, I'm son of you because I'm your father. You can't talk about what I want to do when you want to be mean. You want to be me so bad.
Eventually, Domis Live took a step back from YouTube while Akademiks continued to expand his platform, making him the clear winner of their feud, and the beef faded over time. So, what do you think? So after watching this video, do you think Akademiks will ever be able to regain his respect in hip hop and from the public? Peace.